Discussion of our potential resolution on artificial intelligence.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I am presenting for artificial intelligence, our policy. I sent it through our attorney's office, and they beefed it up quite substantially for me. And I
Hold on. Now muted.
Okay, and I talked with our IT, and they basically didn't have any recommendations for any particular platform. They were like, whatever works best for everyone's workflow. So, because we all do different things. So like Claude would work better for Chantel, and ChatGPT works for some, Gemini works for some, so Copilot works for some. So I thought we would just do it that way, as long as I am in control of it and can get public records out of it. I feel okay about that. So do you guys have any questions?
Did you use AI to develop this?
I did not. And you'll notice in the policy that it says that we have to identify when we do use AI.
Did it say have to, or does it say? I thought it was more vague than that.
Oh, I thought it said have to, but
Okay.
I will revisit that, but I mean.
Even in college papers, you can use AI, you just have to cite it.
Yeah,
It's a
and that's what this is. It's just a site like in the bottom, so if I use it to get a kernel of an idea, I can be like, this was created in part with ChatGPT and was reviewed by Andrea Fisher and Matthew Selby or whatever, so we can, that's probably gonna be the citation I'm gonna require from people, so. So anyway, any other questions?
No,
We have 15 minutes, so.
Does this open up and set us up for, if we don't cite it, or if people kind of do their own and see that we're using AI and after this administration, years in the future or whatever, this is gonna open us up to getting in trouble because they say, hey, we're not.
Well, we have a policy, so that helps us. Because if people are not abiding by the policy, then if we do get sued, then we can say, well, they were not abiding by the policy, so.
But is that excuse, does that limit liability or is that
It
expose?
limits our
It
liability.
limits liability, okay, so
Yeah.
it's beneficial to have a policy, because even if you break it, you have a policy and you can, okay,
Yeah,
thank you, yeah.
this is why we have all these policies.
Yes, all right.
It's save our bacon.
Nobody's got any big burning questions, huh?
All right, well, it'll come back to you at the next meeting to adopt the resolution. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice. That was quick and easy.
Yeah.
On to capital improvement plan update.
Sorry, I didn't know that was gonna last so quickly.
Too quick.
Okay, I'm ready. Council, so before you have the 2026-2031 capital improvement plan. And over the last couple months, I've been going through and updating it, that moved a big driver for this update is also the capital improvement plan as part of the comp plan, which is going through review as well. So essentially what I've done is taken the old plan that was approved back, I think in 2024. And I've gone through the water system plan. I've gone through various other planning studies that we've done. We're currently under the general sewer plan. And I've talked to the engineer who's working on that and pulled some of those projects that have before never been identified. I've pulled them forward to the capital improvement plan. In addition, I've updated the parking garage, the Osborne Pool project, and the Front Street pedestrian plaza. I've tried to bring those projects and kind of reflect the cost elements that I think what's going to happen on several of these projects. The couple of things I just wanted to point out about the capital improvement plan. To me, it's a living document. It's every year I go in and actually look at it for, change. I mean, because sometimes project priorities change. And then also the other thing that I wanted to point out is over the next 6 years, there's about almost $300 million worth of identified need in construction projects that, I'm not saying we have the money for it. I'm just saying this need has been identified for these projects. And it's just a pretty large amount. Also, if you go on the last page of the CIP, there's a running total for each year. I think in 2026 is somewhere in the neighborhood of what, 18 million dollars. 11, almost $12 million. Then it goes up to 14, but the really big jump is at 2028 is about $75 million. And then the next couple of years after that are pretty significant numbers. Large part of that is the parking garage. In reality, the cash flow is not exactly going to work out this way. I mean, $45 million parking lot project is going to probably cross over maybe a couple different years, but this is just a kind of a simplistic look of how these projects are going to play out. I can and we will, the city will have to move some projects, I mean, managing $75 million worth of construction in a single year is really complicated. So there's the possibility or the probability that we'll actually have to push a few of the projects out further in the future as things progress with the process. So you have the list in front of you, I do believe, so we can go through and I can answer questions about individual projects, or we can just kind of keep it at the high level. It's completely up to you.
Is it the toilet garage, right? How, labor intensive and how much energy is it gonna suck you, give me a minute, that's gonna have your time or city staff time, or is it really just managed kind of like here as a resource?
I think overall, this amount of construction is really going to stress the city, including me. And I have some ideas, but I'm not ready to present them. I will say my bald spot's probably going to grow in size here 3 times before I send them.
Point, Travis, is that then we're gonna have to get construction. We have to bring on construction management. So it's part of the bids where we add other staff.
Sure, understood, right? $45 million project. But that's what I'm saying. We can a resource, or we're also investing.
I mean, there's a construction aspect of it, which we can manage, but I mean, the number of invoices for these large construction projects is going to go up by 40%, 50% probably. So that's the amount of communication that's going to be required is going to go up by 200% probably.
You have to bonding is ordinances, procedures, lots of.
Is this a staffing person hiring somebody? Planning to hire somebody for two?
We're going to hire a temporary, basically a construction technician this summer, but it's a 7-month seasonal. I think if we move forward, we're going to have to look at potentially either hiring consultants or city employees to kind of fill in some of these roles.
Yeah, right? So that in particular. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I will say, and again, I don't have anything to show right now, but I've kind of been sketching out some work charts, and I've been really trying to identify the missing needs of what we don't have the capability to do in-house right now. And there will be future conversations on that.
Are you excited for this project?
Oh, gosh, yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
That's good to hear.
So we're only thinking of the projects, obviously, the project on the CIP made us eligible project. So we have to make sure that we have all of our projects for the next 6 years included on that, and then we got stuff to work with to land that list. Transportation Council did to theirs, so we can actually leverage those resources as well. So it's an opportunity that we don't have any projects. We're missing some projects on here.
There could be a couple projects I don't have here, but I've tried to collect all the different data sources that I have and try to bring them together. But if there's something that I missed, I can certainly go back. But I did a pretty good, scrubbing of the water system plan and the old general sewer plan, but it's changed a lot since then. And then also the TIP, I've looked through that list of projects and brought all those forward. And matter of fact, the safety action, the plan that we recently was presented to the council, I brought all those projects forward as well into this document. So that's what, I mean, I don't know, I can't remember what the old CIP total value was, but I mean, it jumped up a significant amount. Any other questions? I just want to say I want a plaque with my name on that parking garage.
I like it, I like it.
Maybe we'll let you cut the ribbon.
Take it out.
So I guess I have a question, Brantley. Maybe you don't know this part. We talked about, Selby mentioned this a little bit, but during the downtown. How does this funding work for this? How do we get there?
For which one?
Parking garage,
It'll be a revenue bond.
which means,
So you've got general obligation bonds where you are putting up your tax dollars. And those are voter approved. So that's your promissory note is put up by tax dollars, your tax revenue. Those are
okay,
voter approved. Revenue bond is you're putting up you're demonstrating that you have the revenue to afford the bond payments over a course of time. And with our paid parking program, we can demonstrate a track record of pretty healthy revenues. And that is council manic. So we don't need to go up to the voters to float that bond to build the parking garage.
so the justification for the revenue bond is backed up by the parking revenue.
Correct.
Okay. That's the revenue, okay.
Any one of those with the word bond in it means attorneys, ordinances.
Yep.
So there'll be processes involved with each one.
Yeah, and as I discussed this morning, we've asked the consultant for the parking garage as well as the consultant for the downtown pedestrian plaza to put into their schedule, the timeline, when we should be approaching our bond attorney.
Okay,
We're discussing how we're gonna, our overall, for the downtown, it's gonna be a more complicated financial strategy. The parking garage is gonna be a little more straightforward.
right. Okay.
How old is City Hall's elevator? And what is the general life expectancy for an elevator?
City's elevator is 31 years.
Yeah, and yeah, so typically an elevator lasts 20, 25 years. I mean, so that's, some elevators will clearly last longer, specifically the mechanical pieces. But the problem with this elevator is some of the electronic components simply aren't made anymore. So they're gonna have to, most elevator maintenance companies won't go in there and do a full refurbishment on something that old. They just basically say it needs to be replaced.
So at the turn of the century, when they were making that elevator, that company's out of business.
They just need it, honestly, it's like a
future.
iPhone, you know, after 5 or 6 generations, they just don't service and maintain them anymore. And then they expect you to upgrade them. And that's, it's really the electronics the electronics and the controls of those things more than anything. The motors, I mean, you can replace a motor pretty easy.
Yeah.
I'll give it props, it outlived the Fest Hall elevator a long time. 'Cause we've
Really?
already replaced the Fest Hall elevator.
That's kind of wild. It's not used very often.
We've already replaced,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. It was about 150,000, I think, when we did that one. That's probably close to a decade ago. So the elevator that was in there didn't last long, whatever was wrong with it.
Wow.
When was the last time have we replaced the Fest Hall roof?
I don't think we ever have.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
it's on our schedule.
If there's probably just going to be a broader discussion. There's a few, maybe cells, some of this that
The math isn't mathing?
could save you some
Some
money,
money, you know?
Yeah.
It look better, mostly on an annual basis.
I will, yeah, you're right.
For instance, Front Street Interim Solutions coming up, which we talked about
Today,
not hearing, but you have an estimated project cost of 200,000, and
for
2026, you show 300,000,
1,000 and
150,000, 2027, so
2.5 times.
budget amount, so.
Yeah, some of them aren't all
Yeah,
adding up.
they're actually, some of them aren't summing
Yeah.
vertically, some straight through. I will fix that.
Yeah, there's another one.
Above it's got
$500,000 twice.
twice
two separate years
Just for the same.
$500,000 budget.
That could be purposeful though, because we have to break the project into 2 different years, potentially.
But it would double the.
I haven't had a chance to look at numbers or funds. I did notice there was a few references in some cells, meaning that the formulas aren't working properly on funds, but
I just,
yeah.
since we have so much time, because we.
Mention it.
Yes, no, I begged Andy and Brantley to have this before June so that I could start developing the 27-28 budget. So as I start plugging those numbers into the financial system, I'll catch errors if there are any for sure.
Well, I've already called 3, just like.
You get cross-eyed looking at this big of a spreadsheet.
So we have a little more time for the project, stuff like that. So we talked about it today, but public works that, last 2 weeks ago, we talked about temporary improvements for downtown in terms of roads, some landscaping and stuff. So Bradley and Selby working together to come up with proposals for council to do some more. And so it's going to be Selby's meeting 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're gonna put it on the 14th at the legislative meeting.
And we might have some options of, maybe improve something, not to exceed a certain amount, so we can forward to party rates to get it done by June 1st, which would be great. So just heads up that. Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Sorry, when we have to finalize the CFP?
Before the comp plan?
Yeah. Okay.
Like summer, July.
Okay, all right, so we're still. Okay.
Lots of fun projects this year.
For a lot of years.
Yeah. You talk about this 7-month position, and when do we talk about making that, considering this stretch of time that's ahead of us, when do we talk about making that a full-time position? I talked to you briefly offline, but I mean, attracting good quality help. I mean, I know you're kind of hoping that you can find somebody who's semi-retired, might want to work 7 months out of the year. I don't know how realistic that is. Maybe that's out there, but if you really want to attract quality talent that has some staying power, we kind of should look at full-time position, especially considering we have a need, right?
It's, we're going to need somebody other than myself and Tony and Andy. Yeah. I'm kind of I might be speaking out of turn that I need to sit down with Selby and Chantel and get this built into the budget for future years and see how it goes. And it's important, quite honestly.
Yeah, my one concern about hiring a full-time construction manager is what do we do with them when we're not construction manager?
Yeah, because a lot of times the city, just from staffing levels, you'll have years where your staff are fully focused on engineering and design with the consultants. No construction whatsoever, really, very little.
Yeah.
Super small projects, maybe, that you don't need a construction manager for. And then you've got the year or two where the major projects are actually happening, and that's when you need them. And in the past, we've always funded it directly by hiring that person, generally from the engineering and design firm that did that project, and they give us a person. We will definitely save money with it being in-house, and so, correct me if I'm wrong, Selby, the whole concept with a 7-month one is to kind of lay this out, see how it works. So.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody likes, especially the optics of having squiggling the thumb, so to speak, right? But at the same time, what's the burden of full-time employee versus burden of contractor at that rate? Is it comparable? Like, is it 50% more to have a contract employee? And that's the case, then we're money ahead by having a full-time employee that maybe becomes a utility player in off-season. If that's such a thing. And it still saves the citizens money. right?
Oh, yeah.
That would be judicious use of our tax dollars. Although the optics might be a little tough for some people.
Well, question, I mean, if we're looking at a candidate with the qualifications, like you're saying, a real top tier candidate, I mean, it begs the question, would they be happy being a utility player in fallow times or in not, right?
Well, I was a construction project manager, so, sometimes it's nice to have a little break, right?
Are you looking for a job,
I am not.
But I'm just
speaking from, experience that, yeah, it's not such a bad deal to have a little lull, and maybe, gosh, I would go hop on a bobcat and clear sidewalks if you gave me the chance. Maybe I'm a weirdo.
Pretty stout.
For instance, after Mike Deason retired from Public Works Director, we brought him back under his own company name, so he was self-insured and everything. And we probably paid half the price for Mike than we would have paid from the engineering firm that was doing whatever project. He did. Like he did High Street Phase 1, I think. He did some of the downtown projects. He had his hands on a couple big ones before he fully retired. He said he was done.
But on the flip side of this coin, construction management money, we need to down in the near future, let's be closer to the 30% downtown. We need to talk about the grant writers and we need to talk about lobbyists. So we need a very strong person at the federal level to help us. And I've got some ideas on that. But besides the mayor and myself, to lobby information, we need this. We're in big games. This is a big game project at $300 million. We need to get some muscle in terms of NTC for working with the professional ones. So that's something that I'd like to see a conversation as we get closer to our funding strategy. That's probably what we need to do. We're talking about, okay, what does our funding strategy look like? And who's going to help us achieve that funding? So that's something we need to.
Well, the current 2027 funding cycle is happening now.
Correct.
And so that conversation needs to happen this year.
Yep.
By this fall, we need to determine whether or not that's something we're pursuing so that we can get applications in for funding cycle for 2028.
And it's the timing of it, like being 30%, and that's why I tell you, I asked you the mayor. So, what projects are we submitting? I've been talking to some colleagues that are lobbyists that wanted to go and try to get a congressional direct spend for some of our downtown projects, but it was for 2027. But for 2028, we should be educating our elected officials at all levels about what we're doing in this community, because what we do for the state. So the education process starts now. And we need to, I think, my opinion, I'd like us to consider getting some muscle for projects.
How, I speak pretty confidently about whether we hire a project manager versus contractor. That's pretty math. If we're gonna do the project, we're gonna need a project manager. It's gonna cost less to hire somebody than to hire a consultant. So that seems like it's gonna pay for itself, essentially. Is the math simple on a grant writer, I presume, dedicated grant writer, is gonna generate so much more grant awards that person pays for himself and then some, right? Obviously, they have to bring in grant money.
Yeah, a grant writer worth hiring covers their costs.
Yeah, exactly.
They bring in a whole lot more money than they'll ever cost the city.
Right.
Yeah.
So how can we quantify for all of us to consider this?
Well,
is it easy to say, hey, we should do this, move forward, this is when, and this is how much it's gonna save or generate, so we can make good decisions?
Well, that's why I think we need to have a session on, and maybe do it in our retreat about funding strategy. I mean, a grant writer is different than a law officer.
Oh, very different.
Very
Yeah.
different. So very different. And so we're gonna want a person with connections and relationships, which we're very fortunate with a very strong federal delegation here. We're very strong, based on the relationships that Carl probably were at the state level over the last couple of years. It's obviously, we have a really strong relationship here, so we have to leverage that. We have to get our ducks in a row in terms of what is our story, what are we telling us, what are we going to do over the next 10 years, what are we going to do, how much of these costs, and so that's where we're it's an exciting time to have these conversations, because it's not just about downtown, it's also about what we're doing, safe strips, school, all the projects that are on the CIP.
So where do we start?
I think you start having a longer session talking about strategy. Maybe somebody, do we know anybody that can? I mean, if you talk about, what we need for a lobbyist to do, what projects, what's the scope of their work, then you go out and you solicit, hey, are you good at state level or federal level or at both levels? And if you're at both levels, what's it going to cost us a month? It's going to be $5,000 a month, it's going to be $10,000. But that $5,000 or $10,000 a month is going to yield tens of millions of dollars over time.
We have used a lobbyist at the local, at the state level, since I've been here. Lodestar, Blake Baldwin has been our lobbyist. I know some communities that have federal lobbyists. When I was in Yakima, their federal lobbyist. I'm gonna do a Pacific Academy. What do you think Yakima was paying their federal lobbyists?
Depends on what you're looking for.
They were looking for money.
Well,
Yeah, the scope of the project though dictates.
They were looking, it wasn't just one project.
yeah.
Yeah,
But how much do you think that lobbyist at the federal level charged per hour?
I don't have any experience in that.
1,000.
An hour?
Now,
Well, I already had proposals given to me about projects that we have $5,000-10,000 for us. So it's different. It depends on the scope of what we're doing about. So, yeah. So we can figure out what scope is, what we want to tackle, and go from there.
Mhm. I mean, we're kicking off the Front Street Plaza this year. $1 million is in the CIP. I'm not sure for what phase that would be that we're funding, but it progressively gets more expensive on a lot of these projects. So I feel like there's some really great conversations that we can start having.
Yeah. Maybe we put out for our workshop in May.
End of May.
yeah,
We should have a nice discussion about the scope of projects that we want to, and then talk about that.
Strategy to,
Yeah, funding strategy conversation. That'd be worth a good 90 minutes.
well, those were the notes that I took from our last meeting. We were talking about what we're doing with the retreat. It was where have we been or where have we gone? What have we achieved? Where are we going? And how are we going to pay for it? Those are the 3 bullet points that I wrote down.
I love it. How are we gonna pay for it? Yeah, good grant writers are, man, they're worth the money.
They're worth the money. It would be a remote position. We don't have a place to put anybody. If you saw the space that we're giving the recreation, the RTM position.
Where are they going?
They're gonna be Andrea's
roommate.
Oh,
Sherry's caring.
so I have a question about the Lions Club Pavilion.
Yeah.
I see it's on for potentially in 2027, but I also have questions associated with our relocation of our pool long-term.
Yep.
Because redeveloping the whole pool over time.
Yep.
That might be in conflict with how we end up redeveloping the whole property that we have adjacently, so I was just curious what the thinking was there.
Yeah, I'm sure that Brantley just kept on moving that money. Money's been in there since that thing fell down. So I think
Totally.
he just kept on moving
Yeah.
it to the right.
Yeah.
When the mayor and I have been approached by folks asking about when are you gonna do it, we've been putting them off. And when I first got here, it was, we gotta see what's happening with the pool. Like, are
Right.
we rebuilding the pool at a certain location?
Yeah.
And how big is it gonna be, and would we need that room? And now we're saying, well, we've decided that we're gonna attempt to move the pool over to the Osborne site.
Mhm.
And that then lends that whole area to be rethought.
Mhm.
And one thought that I had was, rather than building a little pavilion on the existing concrete pad in the middle of the park, was to build a larger pavilion that could host the farmer's market over where the pool exists right now. Just one idea. But that'll be up to the community to have a conversation about. But I agree that I don't think there's any
A
sense in.
pavilion may be big enough for an ice rink
Nice.
in the
Yeah.
wintertime.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking. It would be a big scale. Heritage Foundation that's interested in doing that. It's been a number one asset for quite a while. Let's, I think they build that spring, cover it, and use it as a pavilion and a farmer's market. I mean, and ice rink would have helped us this year.
A lot of communities have those types of mixed use development for summer and winter setups.
But actually, a really good question though, is somebody's like, okay, what do we need to do to move, what's our strategy to move the pool? Next is that piece that we move the pool and the library goes up there. So how do we execute that, facilitate that success and open up space for Paul? Then it will address the.
Yeah, that's like the first domino.
Right, exactly.
Right. The first domino for a lot of other opportunities.
And we might not need to fix that elevator. We're not having public meetings upstairs.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You have that all down here, the public stuff.
So maybe, Mayor, we look at the domino effect also. What do we tackle first to start the cascade? No pun intended, events that we need to start our projects.
Project go, well, that's part of the. Yeah, I mean, it is what. How are we gonna pay? How are we gonna pay? Any other CIP comments that get expanded on here?
Yeah, Bradley, I was gonna ask you about the, East Leavenworth Road water transmission main replacement for 5 million. What's going on there?
So the water transmission, I mean, there's a water line that goes from corner of Bicycle and East Leavenworth Road, wraps all the way around, basically underneath Highway 2 and across the bridge. And there's stretches of that pipe that are really old, and it's this old steel line that's a similar piece that we've just replaced out here on the Icicle last year. When we pulled that stuff out of the ground, you shot it thin.
Right.
And it's pretty apparent that there's been a lot of leaks and a lot of leaks in that line. So that just is one of several planned replacements of the water main over the next, 5-10 years.
So we've got a water main from East Leavenworth Road all the way across town, or down through that.
It loops all the way East Leavenworth Road, all the way, yes.
Yeah.
So many water customers along East Leavenworth Road.
Yeah.
Right.
Out past Palmsfield, Dempsey Road, I mean, the water main, one of the water mains goes right there.
Okay, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
You see the old run is the wooden one, when you go down to
There,
Barney.
you still find some of that.
So it's not new, it's
Right,
replacing.
yeah, just replace it. I didn't know we had that many clients out on East Leavenworth Road. Because it's outside the city limits, but I know we still have clients out there.
Yeah.
I haven't,
longer conversation.
I haven't done the numbers, but we have a significant number of customers that are outside city limits.
And there was a time when that was not exceptional, like it is now.
I think it's roughly about 30% of our water customers are outside city limits.
30%? No.
Well,
way.
that's higher than I thought it would be.
I mean, rough numbers.
Right, but significant. Wow. Okay.
Brett, you have a plan that talks about
monitoring, putting in
sort of monitoring to
actually assess
leakage rates.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, we're actually looking at doing different things, but I mean, what we do now essentially is we know how much water we make at the water treatment plant and the wells, and then using the meter data, then we know how much is leaking. We have much better meter data over the last couple of years than we've ever had before. So we're actually, it's actually something the state requires, but we actually track what our leaking percentage is. I think last year was about 16%.
16?
Yeah. But state requirement or state guideline is it should be 10%. So, but in previous years.
That's 30.
Yeah,
Up to 30.
it's been pretty high here, so we're making some steps going in the right direction.
So right now, the way it calculates leakage rate doesn't pinpoint
where the leakage happens. You have to basically
basically
at all the meters. So I think what you're looking at putting in there some way to actually pinpoint where the leakage problems are prominent.
So there's a couple things, so typically, like if we have a water leak in residential area, it's pretty obvious. I mean, a lot of times people call in and you start seeing water come up to the surface of the road, and we get notified fairly quickly. It happens a fair amount actually on the water main as well. Matter of fact, here about a month ago, I don't know if you were driving out through the icicle, you would have seen a big wet portion of the asphalt, because there was actually a fairly large water leak in the water main out that way. We were able to patch and repair it, but once we went down there, we actually found multiple leaks in a very close area. We tried to address them as best as possible, but that is a section that we're gonna have to replace next year. Just FYI. There's probably about 100-foot section that's just literally looks like Swiss cheese. But there's a couple things with technologies where you can actually kind of run cameras underneath there and you can actually track some of these leaks. I haven't got pricing for that yet, or there are some kind of more automated tools as well. And we're starting to look into those type of technologies, but I don't have a specific answer that we're going to use at this time or anything along those lines. But
So we did some of that with the money we got from the icicle fund. We did some on the main because we were looking at it with sound.
yeah, you can track
Track
you can track
the.
leaks that way fairly easy as well.
They didn't find that many, actually. I mean, there's, I guess the sense is that probably a lot of them are at the individual hookups versus the large mains or whatever.
And I'm going to point this out, and this is actually interesting. I did not know this until last night. Civics Academy last night, really good presentation from Chris Clanky, the water treatment plant operator, supervisor. He actually had the water generation numbers going back to the 30s in the city of Leavenworth. And you'd be surprised that number hasn't really changed much. So we today are much more efficient than we were, back in the 30s. It literally hasn't changed. I mean, it's almost the same amount of money. I mean, same amount of water produced every year. But it just shows you how much leakage there has been historically in the water system across. I didn't bring it up in front of Civics Academy, but it's that's what those numbers.
Well, it also shows you pre-meters. There was no incentive.
That's true.
Yeah, because I was here when they first got those meters in, and there were people that just rivers would run down the street.
Oh, they have
Yeah.
really thick grass. Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah, no, well, I mean, it is pretty amazing, even with all the growth we've had in the last 5 years or so. Our water consumption has not grown, and yeah, it's pretty amazing to think of how.
We're
Bit by bit.
incentivizing,
Huh?
we're incentivizing
Yeah.
conservation
exactly.
as well.
Right. So, anyway, it does work.
So
Brent,
line
line
up for
leak detection
program for 400,000 for 2027. That is kind of undetermined. Basically, you're gonna explore.
Yeah, we'll absolutely, quite honestly, probably next fall, I'll probably start looking into, talking to, contractors who do this type of work and, consultants and try to figure out, where our best bang for the buck is gonna be and, start looking into it a little bit more. At this point, I've spent zero time on it at this point.
I'm just curious.
All this is really fascinating.
How are we gonna
figure this out,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. but-
Yeah, I mean, the technology's out there. I mean, I've done some Google searching and, I've talked to Chris, about this a little bit and Andy as well, but I personally haven't had the time to really dig deep into it yet.
I have another question for you, Bentley. So we have a phase 3, priority 3 wastewater treatment project for this calendar year. For like 2.5 million. And my question is, starting in 2030, we also have a wastewater treatment facility modernization project. What would that entail?
So, unfortunately, so currently we're going through the general sewer plant. So we've hired a consultant. They're going through and analyzing both our sewer distribution system and the operation and the condition of the wastewater treatment plant. That report will not be done until, I think it's September of this year. Problem is, we know that plant needs work. And I can kind of go down some rabbit holes, but it is getting close to being at capacity in some ways. So we know it needs work, and then we have a rough idea what that work is going to be. So I wanted to include those numbers in this plan, but we will have a lot more information in September when the general sewer plan is complete. But I can tell you, our mixing beds are really old and need some work, and also a lot of our filtration systems, specifically related to phosphorus, probably need to be replaced. So right now, these are rough numbers. That number could be anywhere from 10 to 40 mils per square meter.
So these projects will really be just upgrades to what we currently have. It's not even an expansion.
Maybe slight extension, but I mean, maybe slight additional capacity. I mean, like if we can increase our filtration process for the phosphorus, then that, well, I don't know how much I spend. So
Get nerdy with us, Brantley.
So there's a couple different ways of looking at the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant. One is just effluent capacity, which we actually have plenty to grow in that realm. But where we're really hitting against basically our permit requirements and the capacity of the plant is both BOD and phosphorus. So one could actually make the argument that we're essentially at capacity or really close to it on both those elements. In theory, you could actually say we're over capacity in the phosphorus because we don't always meet our permit requirements. So if we can sit there and figure out a way to make this plant operate more efficiently, to reduce BOD or reduce BOD at point source, then we can actually, that will give us more capability to increase our effluent capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I recall conversation in terms of we way down already, but our intake, our starting point of phosphorus was unnaturally high here. So, and that was a conversation we had a few years ago. We're doing ecology that it was, we were at unnaturally high sources of phosphorus. So we were trying to correct something that's why you guys do it with ecology. But so we should look at that.
I mean, it's kind of not true, but it's so there's.
Anyway,
So our phosphorus is really very, very consistent with the other, like Wenatchee, for example. Our problem is just the huge spikes.
Right.
In basically the tourist industry.
So it's a festival.
It's the hotels all doing laundry on Monday morning.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the overall amount of phosphorus that comes into the plant is really not that big of a deal. But when you get these huge spikes like Monday when everybody does laundry and everything, then that kind of just pushed our bugs in the system into an area that quite honestly, they don't really treat the phosphorus as well as they should or could. And so there's some stuff that we're looking at, again, as part of this 20 or 30 or $40 million project to kind of level out those numbers as well. But again, we're just at this point, just in conversations with the consultant who's actually doing the general sewer plan. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of conversations over the next 5 or 6 or 7 years, exactly how to best optimize that plan. Yeah, I will say this, Kyle, the wastewater treatment plant, he's doing an amazing job. He's actually made a lot of really fine tweaks to make that plant work better over the last 6 months. So I think hopefully we're, fingers crossed, we're going to be better on phosphorus this year.
Can we get the hotels on board to help reduce phosphorus by using phosphate-free detergents. Is there a way that we can have that conversation with businesses? Because that's one of the biggest impacts, right?
It would be, yes.
Can we have that conversation? Has anybody ever had that conversation?
I haven't heard it. No.
I mean, it seems like a pretty easy assistance in all of this, right? To have that conversation.
Agreed. I don't know if we can regulate. That's, I'm happy to ask our attorney if we could. I know that when we had the Bicycle Watershed Council come in and speak with us, we were talking about conservation plans.
Right.
And we're talking about, I remember they were saying, we want to go into the hotels and talk with them about water conservation. If they're gonna do that and encourage people to use their towels more than once, that sort of thing, which I've seen in most hotels I've gone to. Don't know if Leavenworth hotels have that kind of messaging.
Some do.
But if they were gonna go in and have that conversation about conservation, that would be a great time to also have the conversation about using phosphorus-free laundry detergent.
We talked about today, we're chamber double messaging, that's something we could possibly do there.
Well, and I mean, knowing that they're a big part of the reason that we're near capacity and content and going over to the threshold in our permit on occasion, that could be really beneficial to learn that we may not have to do as much work on our wastewater treatment facility if hotels are just willing to reduce the type to modify the type of detergent they're using.
It would help.
Yeah.
Because I think what we learned from that discussion with the icicle group was that the hotels here at that point were not on board with, promoting the conservation of using your towels more than once, changing your beds every day. They just didn't have that consciousness. That's what they found out. So.
One thing that I recall from last night's conversation, Chris was a great job on water. He makes the big comment, caught my attention, was that water treatment on top for the treatment building is approaching 50 years.
Mhm.
It needs about 30 to 40 million dollars worth of work, which should be in here.
Okay, I didn't catch it.
I thought we were trying to get away from surface water.
Yeah.
We'll talk about water rights another time.
We're looking at different options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sylvie, I know at one point you were talking to the PUD about potentially having some sort of partnership where we could move our public works campus. Did any progress get made with the PUD on that conversation?
We, I think when Kit was still with us, she was working with one of our consultants on laying out what a campus could look like.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a sit down with the PUD at the end of last year. I can't remember the date of that. That was October, November of last year. There hasn't been any forward progress on that since that point in time.
Okay.
They were still deciding what they needed, because they're expanding the one that is there. On the backside of that is being expanded right there, permitting, I think, now for that. Anyway, so we had to see what that was gonna look like, where they were gonna come in and out for that. Would impact.
Well, if they're in permitting, then they've already done design, so.
Way to kind of refresh that conversation.
Yeah, we should have an update. We haven't done any additional work on our end, as far as I'm aware. We also had a grant that was funding some of that work that needs to be wrapped up soon. So yeah, I can definitely start on that one. Yeah.
That'd be great, just so that we can kind of know which location direction we're going in, seeing it on our CIP here.
We talked about the hotels and the phosphorus thing before, a year ago or so. Because I think our work group brought that up. That's right, yeah. And nothing happened. Is there a next steps we can talk about right now? We can talk about it now, then next year we talk about it. It sounds like this is a big money savings, and well, there's regulation in cities around the country of things like this that we can talk to the attorney, but if it comes to that, but what's the next conversation? Is with the chamber, or who's having that conversation with them?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful to find out what some of the larger hotels are using for laundry detergent first and foremost, and find out if phosphate-free detergent is an option. Typically,
I don't know this for certain, haven't done any real background on this, but my understanding is that it's a little more expensive, it doesn't work quite as well, so they might not be willing to make that change without some sort of incentive. And I'm all about incentives. I would like to incentivize people to not use their garbage disposals anymore. That would reduce our BOD. I wish when we built the 386 apartments up the Drumstick, we had not let them put in garbage disposals, but I was told I could not forbid them from doing so. Maria and I were just talking about this. The BOD load is coming from organics. That's coming from waste from the 3 breweries you've got, and it's coming from wastes from the residents as well. So I'm going to ask all the council members, like I asked our Civics Academy attendees last night, if you have a garbage disposal, please don't use it.
I just had
composting.
What's that?
because people just dump more stuff down instead of composting separately, or throwing it away.
People put it in their garbage disposals, grind it up, and then it goes into our sewer plant. And then the bugs that are supposed to be digesting your poop are instead digesting
Compost.
the food.
Oh, okay.
This would be a nice little box of, Carrots Weekly, it'd be kind of a cool little, and don't put
Did
hair,
you know?
don't put hair in the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned that, right? There's little things like that. Yeah.
Grease.
Grease, and Chris told me that when we did our tour, like, oh, hair.
Did Kyle
Yeah.
get numbers from December? Sounds like a really great educational talking points.
Did you
know?
We don't actually buy phosphorus.
Put it on the website, like a community meeting, and that would be cut.
Did you know how
Another
their
supply
intention
and-
is to save $25 million from having to do these things? And instead we can do these things to expand it.
Yeah,
If you stop doing these things.
Very easily, because it doesn't affect your life, so we're starting to
Yeah.
get information.
Good point.
For the record, we possibly agree.
Where we're.
Oh,
where we
good.
don't have-
Way to go.
I don't want you guys to sweat.
There should be a
What to worry about.
You're trying to set an example.
Is it more expensive to pay rent?
I haven't priced out an alternative, we just opted on
He
that.
might be
Yeah,
us,
we're
trying to track
it.
Do you find it harder to do your laundry?
Throwing down, I'll change over to phosphorus. Phosphorus too, not mine.
I make my own laundry detergent, so it
Look at
doesn't
you.
have any phosphorus.
Yeah, you do that.
Huh?
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
See, it doesn't smell any worse than like a regular person, that's great. I meant it in the nicest way, that's awesome. There's all these people that use
Any
that
words?
word.
Let's go back to our agenda here.
It's great.
And let's move on from capital improvements to comprehensive plan review and updates.
So in your packet, this week we have the utilities element, economic development element, and the climate element. Utilities and the econ are just minor updates. It's not a total revamp. There was nothing huge required by state law to update there, but I'll definitely want your eyes on it. We're still waiting on some feedback from some of the utility providers like PUD, because some of the information that our consultants use seemed very accurate, so we wanted their input before this goes further through SEPA process. So anyways, it's very minimal. If you look at like goals and policies, if there's a little mountain symbol, it means it's to contribute to our climate resilience element, which is a new regulation. So you will see some crossover where we have the new climate element, but we also have these resilience goals and policies in the spread out throughout the entire document. So you will see some new goals and policies that are a little different from our previous 2021 larger update that we did. I don't have like a whole presentation like I did last week with all the background. This was just more of a time for Q&A. I can pull up the utilities plan, and you guys, if you have questions or comments or concerns, I can redline it to get that off to our consultants to work on. Or if there's one of the three that you really wanted to dig into, this is kind of your time. And this is not a final draft. This is just the initial draft. You'll see it again. It'll go through a lot of public review before it lands on your desk in a year. But I can share. I can pull up anything.
I have just a general question. Is the font left margin and then the next page right margin because it's intended to be bound as a book? Is that why that's that way?
I think that's the intent.
It was so as I'm scrolling through it, I'm like, this looks terrible. But then I was like, okay, is this meant to be printed and bound? But also, like, almost everything we do is digital now, so I didn't see the need for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted to ask.
That's an easy fix, like.
I just wanted to ask. I don't want to mess up if you guys truly are printing them and binding them.
I didn't. Yeah. That was not my.
But I also feel like if
Then
we
I
use
see
the
that-
whole page, it's gonna be fewer pages, and that could be really
Yeah,
easy
but like,
to read
and then
too.
some of them don't have that.
Oh, that's a line, one way or another.
Consistency is key.
But I think that if we
I
have
will ask.
smaller margins, more text on each page, the
Yeah.
document won't be
Quite so.
so overwhelming.
Yes. I know, because when you dig into it, there's not.
Yeah, because the text only takes about half the page. With lines.
I mean, so anything on utilities? And just so you know, like, I did have them add that this in 2 places that for like city utilities, like water, sewer, storm, that's gonna be in our capital facilities element. And they have that statement kind of in the introduction and then on the very first page of like the inventory for city provided utilities, go to the capital facilities element, which we don't have tonight. But in case you were, yeah, it wasn't very clear. They had city provided utilities down at the bottom, of course. If some people are gonna look here and look for our water sewer as a utility. That was a change. We took a lot of the ice cold chestnut irrigation. There, in our old comp plan, there was a huge write-up on that. There's not a lot of, it was almost more than our own water system. And so we kind of shrunk that down a little bit just because they don't provide a lot of irrigation in the city limits or UGA. Anyway, I don't want to just ramble, but.
Well, Maggie, if there's anything, I read through this whole thing and nothing jumped out at me in this, but if there's something you're like, why isn't anybody asking me about this? You know, if there's something that you feel like, we should new, updated that you think is worth noting, then please go ahead and ramble.
I think the biggest thing, like, I'm not as concerned about the utilities and economic development. It's more that the climate is a brand new one.
Right.
And I feel like as a community, we didn't get a lot of pushback on this climate resilience because I think it's very important to this community versus others in the state that have had a lot of pushback for adopting this. I did get, what you don't have in your packet is the appendix that goes with this, and that might have been helpful. I didn't have it in time for the packet. I just got it on Sunday. But it goes through kind of kind of like the housing and land use appendices, kind of how we gather the data to arrive at some of these. We added the severe on page in the climate resilience section. Sorry, I'm on paper, not electronic. Page 3 talks about some of the identified hazards, and we added severe storms after December.
I was gonna ask when you,
So, because we had flooding and we have, but these severe storms that are kind of a combination of multiple things have been coming up more frequently. And so that was actually added after the storms in December. So that's I mean, we have Snowmageddon in there, but then we didn't get a huge write-up because, again, this has been in process for a year now. But we wanted to make sure we captured severe storms as a hazard and how to mitigate that. And so then we have wildfire and smoke, which was really important to the community, and that was a lot of the feedback. We have heavy rain and flooding, extreme temperatures, drought and snowpack loss. And those were kind of like the big key things. Like we had a climate team that met a few times to discuss like what are major hazards we want to address in the comp plan. And what goals and policies do we want to have in here that can help drive code changes? Sorry. And I feel like the goals and policies are pretty well, and we reviewed. I mean, I think they all meet the state requirements, and I think support where we want to go as a community, to be more resilient. And so this whole chapter is brand new. So there's nothing to refer back on. So again, this is just me asking for feedback. We're actually talking about this next week at the Planning Commission. So I might have some of their feedback to kind of off of my days here. I should have taken it to them first before I brought it to you. But
One thing in that chapter, and I'm not gonna go back through and try and find it, but
Yeah.
It talks about challenges of like fire risk with density and how it's easier to spread when you have more density, right? Well, anticipating things, and I know some of the discussions that you and I have had, concerned about that. Every bit of density that we're adding right now is built to a new standard, right? It's built to a new fire-wise, all that stuff. So this is where messaging sometimes is nice to hit it off in the past. If there's any way that can be addressed in the document, so if somebody's reading it, they're like, oh, see, it says we're gonna burn down faster with all this new density that we're mandating in our city. And maybe a little blurb in there that says, well, the new density is built to a much more fire-resistant standard than the old density. So that is true on one hand, but it is being addressed on the other.
make sure that's somewhere, because this
That's a
is
good
where.
point. I think every fire agency that's been in here to speak to us has said fire density is better. Right?
Every guy, you get the WUI code, yes.
Because of the
Because it's more, you can get to stuff quicker.
Yeah.
And it's easier in our particular environment, it's easier for our limited staffing to defend a fire to a smaller footprint than it is to go out to the sprawl.
Right.
Go and protect all of these houses out in the hills.
Yeah.
That's the challenge with the density here in Lackland.
Big, I thought we're really glad we got this climate context. This is really powerful. I have one to mention something, but something I picked out of the economic part, which I thought was a very powerful statement, was that this is the economic development said the largest employment industry is related to tourism, but medicine also remains a large source of employment in the city. Most people employed in the city over 2,000 do not live in Leavenworth and commute. Similarly, over 800 of Leavenworth residents work outside the city. Just 4% of the employees with jobs live and work in Leavenworth. So I thought that was a real eye-opener to me. I didn't realize.
14, not 4.
14%, right. That's what I mean.
But still, Zeke, I was looking at that too, and 16% commute more than 50 miles.
Yeah.
So we have more 50-plus mile commuters than we do resident employees.
Yeah, right. Which just talks about how important it is.
Sustainable.
Yeah, how important it is to get working families able to live in the city, to live in this town. It's just it's not easy to pull off, but it's an essential thing that we do. And this just speaks that much more powerfully to it with these statistics. So, that being said, I was interested in where you guys got the sources, because these are for the climate. I thought they were,
I have, and that's where that data sheet will probably, or that additional data that I can send, that I just got on Sunday. It's all the background.
because I thought it was solid stuff, especially snowpack issues.
Yeah.
The sources are at the bottom of all the blue sections.
Right, I saw that.
Those projections, that information is really interesting
That's right.
and in some ways startling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we're in a myth that we think we have unlimited water resources. I don't think cities put that out, but I think people just think if the ice is low, what do we have to worry about? And we do have something to worry about. We do have water issue sources to worry about, especially if you get another winter like this, which no doubt will happen again. So the drought and snowpack loss are serious considerations for the
If
city.
everybody was using all of their water rights and icicle, it would stop.
At certain times of year.
At certain times, of year, I mean, there would be nothing.
It'd be dry.
I mean, if everybody could and would, get
Tapped in,
out
tapped in.
what they propose could.
Yeah.
It's not, it's getting, but they're doing some great, crazy, innovative stuff too, to try to keep water in there, so we're trying to help by trying to find sources to get out of there. We'll see how that all plays out.
Right. Well, I think that is another impetus to talk about the hotels and how they get conserved, because I think that all plays together, and I think it's really important to pick that up and run with it.
I have that comment to make sure we maybe address WUI, not in the, I mean, the goals and policies back it up, but maybe somewhere in the summary would be a better location under wildfire as well. Like what we have done, but what we can continue to build upon.
I know, and what I like is that we've got that living example on West Street.
Right.
Of a home that burnt down, and Kayla's home, and one house on one side was all charred and fire, it destroyed, and the other side was just as close and didn't hardly show a thing, and it was done with glue, and it was a very dramatic illustration of the difference between old construction.
Maggie, I have a question.
Yeah.
Under 11, on page 11, under the climate resilience element, there's two references to something called ELY. ELY community garden and ELY property. Huh?
Lorraine Young.
What is that?
She's former mayor. Yeah. Former mayor. The house behind the community garden is called the Lorraine.
Oh, why don't they call it the Wenatchee River Institute now?
Well, that's the Lorraine Young house, which is part of Wenatchee
It
River.
was just.
It's like the red barn and
Okay.
the.
That's very confusing.
Hopefully not anymore, Sylvie.
Still confusing.
Anything else? I mean, you'll have the planning commission, minutes in a future packet, so you'll be able to see what they talk about. If anything big comes up next week, I can fill you in, and it is recorded, so you can always go back and watch it or listen. But I just appreciate your eyes on it now. Again, you're gonna have more time to review this. I just wanted to see if there was anything glaring, but I do think they did an awesome job on the climate.
Yeah.
Facebook maybe.
Which doesn't say what it is.
Oh. It should spell it out.
It should at least tell what it is.
I wrote that down. I wrote it down, spelled it out.
Spell it out. The first time at least. Any other questions, suggestions, future agenda items? I know there's been a couple that have been raised in our discussions here, so. Anything else that somebody has for the order of the day before we take a break?
I was gonna mention, have we got on the retreat, we got any kind of discussion about what was proposed for the golf course idea?
No, I didn't, no, it wasn't on the things that you asked for.
I don't know if the council wants to look at that, but I think if we can wise use of our time to consider that. We have, given other things we want to look at, I think the council should familiarize itself with that whole process. I think it's a pretty big deal, and the more we know about it. Talking about Stephen Brewer's thing about the renewal of the golf course contract, that maybe use some of that for affordable housing.
Just housing. Just housing.
To redevelop the golf course?
Yeah, get rid of golf course and redevelop the house.
It probably still belongs in committee, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't think it's ready for.
The council for a retreat
I mean,
discussion.
it's.
That needs a lot of work before.
Well, just a thought.
Well, I mean, yeah,
You know,
eventually you'll.
In a conversation about it, that's something we want to pursue.
That maybe could be the one worth talking about is that would the council support it? Because the committee might be all about it, but then you get here, it's dead in waters.
right, so I was just thinking, we need topics for the retreat.
I think we got a day for the retreat.
We've got a
I
pretty
think
full.
you guys will have plenty to talk about.
Okay.
Look how long we talked about just a smidgen of the CIP.
That's true.
So no, you've got plenty to talk about, and that particular concept, I think, needs to be discussed by the council in an open session,
Right, for sure.
not in our retreat.
Okay.
Says the golf.
I would
We talked about the shape there.
Well, it's one of the oldest golf courses in Washington.
Right.
That conversation will not be.
And they're celebrating their 100th anniversary
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Recreation.
And I just want to remind, I didn't know this either until Mike Wharton gave us a presentation, but that golf course was donated to the city by the golf club. And I don't think any discussion or any decision about its future redevelopment should be taking place without the current golf club members or board at least.
Oh, for sure. No,
I can already guess how that conversation is going.
I think it needs to happen, but it does. I mean, the conversation needs to happen. They need to definitely be included,
Well,
without a doubt.
I think there's a pre-conversation that needs to happen as to whether or not we even have that conversation.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because they're wondering, okay, now that this idea is out there, they were planning on building new cart barns, they were planning on building a new maintenance shed, they were planning on doing some major investments in that resource. They're now backtracking on that because this idea is out there.
Well, maybe we should have that discussion.
Yeah. Well, it's a big discussion, but it isn't like we shouldn't touch this because I think we definitely need to.
I feel like if they're making serious capital decisions based on rumors, because at this point, it's, until we all talk about it, it's rumors.
Right.
Then we need to have this conversation sooner rather than later, especially if they're making decisions. Was some of this work slated to happen this summer?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to have this as soon as possible. I mean, can we put it on the next study
Well,
session?
especially since they're
Not
trying to.
the next, we can, hopefully, we make the sausage on Wednesday mornings.
Yeah.
So, we'll figure out as timely as we can.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
The sausage is made the day after council meetings.
I did get an email from a community member asking about, and it's come up before, maybe on the roads, what bike path. And we had talked at some point, potentially, it's right along the river, go on that property, the golf course, a bike path. So I kind of came up recently too.
Yeah, and we've had emails from folks as well. We would want a trail that connects from Enchanted Park to the bridge. There's multiple problems with that. One is the golf course definitely does not want people, non-golfers on the golf course during play. And then we don't want people traipsing through our well field.
I'm just bringing, Bill, there's one thing, I'm just only piggybacking with it, talking about development.
Yep.
That's just a part of that conversation as well, just bring that up. That's fine. It was interesting, but a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
I don't know if this is worth a study session topic, but I had a resident reach out to me. He sent me a Ranch World article regarding Chelan upping their recent grant funding to their community up there. They donate, I think, $120,000 in grant money to local businesses. And I know, being part of the Economic Development Committee, I should know this answer, but I was just curious of how long our $50,000 general grant fund has been ongoing. Has that been increased at all recently?
No, it hasn't been increased. It's been at the same level since I got here. 125 in lodging tax and 15 in general fund. Since at the first round that I participated in was the 22 to 23 round. So awarded 22 for use in 23. And that is up to the council. You guys hold the purse strings. You tell us what to do, and we'll give away as much money as you want.
I would entertain a conversation of increasing that general fund donation. Just because the lodging tax grant only goes to heads and beds, and not all the nonprofits are about heads and beds, but they don't. That doesn't mean that they necessarily don't bring, good to the community.
I agree. I'd like to talk about that. Or at least, like, what's the methodology for kind of, why is it 50? And why isn't it gone up every year, about a portion of the year or something?
Up until this year, we never spent it all.
Right.
People didn't apply for all of the funding. There weren't enough applicants that, some didn't qualify, but we never spent all the money until this year. So we never felt compelled as a committee to say, hey, we need more money, because we never spent all the money.
And there's a reason why we were able to grant all the money this year, and that's because Courtney drove the process. So Courtney's a local who knew people. She looked through the program and reached out to people that she thought could come up with good uses for the money. So that's why it was, because I give all that credit to Courtney.
You started in 2021. Ana Cortez brought it on board.
Okay.
Prior to that, all of the program funding was just the lodging tax fund. And she saw that need, that we were having to meet other things that weren't just heads and beds. And so she made that recommendation, and I think I can't remember if we funded it in 21, but probably the 22-23 budget was probably the first one.
I didn't realize it was such a new
program
from the general.
Well, I imagine now with Courtney's effort and what we awarded this year, I don't think it's gonna go backwards. I would think.
Sean, I think prior to that, there were things that got funded, but it was like one off, or they were always coming individually. And that was the first time that was coordinated into a fund to try to get it,
Makes sense.
or, yeah.
We could raise the pot, you just adjust the parameters. You can spend the money, if we're not, you just change the parameters to accommodate, if you want to give away $200,000, the parameters just change. And there's more opportunity for people to get more money. You can change the system.
Pretty solid rubric now. I mean, we could just
But you're not
spending
all the money, but you're not
No,
spending all the
we
money.
are. This year we did.
This year we did. You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
this
This year we did.
We had turned down
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we had-
turned people away this year. It was the first time we were doing it.
Okay. So maybe we need more money.
That's what Shane brought.
That's what's behind it.
Right. All I heard from the meeting was like, we didn't.
Bring it through the.
So we
No,
did.
you missed Shane's prelude, which was, could we add capacity to this fund?
Right.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that's up to you guys.
Especially since we're talking budget this year, right?
Right.
We're going to develop a budget, and I will put every one of Bradley's capital projects in there, and then I will tell you if you have enough money to fund other things.
Story doesn't.
Sounds like a good way to dovetail.
Capital.
That's what I like to do.
That's where it's at.
Sounds like a good way to dovetail that.
Chantel, our realist over here.
Operations and maintenance is second, and then you go with programs, special programs, and capital as your last funding sources.
All right. I think we're ready for a break. Ardmore City Council meeting for March 24th is called to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Mike, why don't you just start? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got roll call.
Flintstream.
Ann Hesper.
Zeke Reister, Jane Nair,
Travis McMaster.
Mike Bedard.
Rob Wheaton.
All present and accounted for. And just before we have the consent agenda, I'm moving number 6 down to the end under the business conduct, so we can have a discussion on it. So number 11, after action item 10, will be a discussion of the moratorium on the bed and breakfast. So with that correction or modification, I would ask for council to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Shane. All in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And then I had a rumor that we have a high school student, at least one here. You want to come up? I've got something for you and tell us your name and. I know. This is what you have. Come on, and your name is?
It's Ava Schmidt.
Ava Schmidt, and here's a pen for Leavenworth. And what's your plans?
I intend to study music performance and education at Central Washington University.
Central. Welcome. Awesome. Good to have you with us. Again, before we get started, I just remind everybody that when we're here, we're respectful of each other. We acknowledge that it's okay to disagree, but prior to making comments, you must be recognized by the chair. Address any comments to the council, the staff as a whole, and not to individuals. And keep your comments focused on the topic that's being discussed, unless you are addressing something not on the agenda, which is what we do first, is ask for comments from people that have things they want to bring up that aren't on our agenda. Anybody? You don't have anybody online.
Zero participation online.
Zero.
That means they're all here.
That means they're all here. All of them? Wow. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, point of personal privilege.
Yes.
I'd like to recognize our 2 visitors from the city of Bellingham. They're visiting us here, and they happen to be just like public process, so I just had a little chat with them. Eddie and Annika. Who came to just participate in our meeting tonight just because they like public process.
Now, wait a minute. That's not, we can't even get people from here.
The policy wonks.
We need to take your temps.
Thank you for that point, sir.
Maybe they need a pin.
There, we'll get you a pin. Then we've got public safety reports. Do we have Corporal Lake? No. Oh, looks like slipped his mind. He's a short time.
Down the days.
I think he's counting and counted. But we do have Mike, go ahead.
I did check because he keeps talking about. I got 11 years and 2 months.
Well, that's a real count.
So as everybody kind of knows, we're kind of here at the end of winter, heading into spring. When I wrote this, we had just had that big storm, and I was hopeful that that would slow down the process of drying out fuels. Snowpack is below normal. I actually misprinted on here. Fish Lake and Sass Ridge are between 45 and 56%. Bullet Pass is at 0% of normal for this time of year. I can only find one other year historically that's been lower, 2015. But it's at 0%. There's no snowpack on Bullet Pass right now. I did sit through a presentation from Stephen Bodnar, who is the lead fire weather forecaster for the National Weather Service in Spokane last week. He didn't have great news. I think everybody can kind of see what's going on with the snowpack. We know that things got very dry very quickly last year, but same thing that he told us at the beginning. He's like, I don't have a lot of great news, but it's gonna rain all fire season. And the bottom line is that it doesn't do us any good to be doom and gloom about it, because we could get precipitation at the right times that could make this not as bad of a situation as it appears. The other thing that we can't control is we don't know where and when ignitions are going to occur. Last year we had dry fuel conditions through the whole summer, and we didn't really get ignitions until the big lightning bust we had in September. We all kind of know what happened after that. So I'm going to try to remain optimistic, but the National Weather Service is not. They have no. The thing I took away from it is they have no reason to suspect that we wouldn't see the same increase that we've seen year to year in sort of the amount of acres burned and the fire behavior for fire season. So we'll try to remain optimistic, but right now, what we're seeing on the ground, especially right here locally below 2,000 feet and kind of down the valley, is there is no snow. So we'll hope for more precipitation in May, maybe some in June, to help kind of slow that drying down. But that's where we're at, is hoping for that. So I try not to be just all doom and gloom, because we could, again, have precipitation and things not be that bad. But if we're being honest, the outlook right now is not great for fire season. So we'll deal with it as it comes. We don't get too much choice in ignition, location, or times. Right now in the wintertime, we've done a lot of our in-house training has been focused on structure fires, hazardous materials training. One of Leavenworth's own, Simon Kaiser, came back to us in 2024. He graduated from from Cascade High School. He was a cadet and then a resident. He went to work for a few years for the Department of Defense. They gave him a ton of hazmat training, so he's brought that back here to Leavenworth. He worked for the U.S. Navy Pacific Northwest at Bremerton. We also completed our company officer academy for the West Zone. That's Fire District 9 or Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue. Fire District 6, which runs from the Praise Route Barn at the edge of our fire district all the way to Sunny Slope. They came together. We had 24 company officers. Most of them were experienced, but we wanted to make sure we went through with everybody so there were no gaps. It covered everything with structure firefighting and motor vehicle accident, how to manage those during the initial company operations. We didn't try to cover wildland because that's sort of its own beast off to the side. But we had help, the DOT came in, helped us with motor vehicle accidents, State Patrol as well, and Cascade Medical all came together to help build familiarity and help us function better as a team. We all work together on scenes. It's nice to get to network and talk to people when you're not on the side of the road in Tumwater Canyon in the middle of winter. As far as response, we responded to 103 calls in 2026. That's down from 132 at this time last year. I would assume that's most likely due to the perceived lack of winter, not a lot of winter recreation. You can't have a lot of sledding accidents if nobody's got snow to sled on. So good that we haven't had those calls, not necessarily good that it's because we haven't had snow in town. So again, things have been kind of slow, but we're gearing up for wildland season. That's where we're at. So yes, not really. Yes. Good call, but any questions for me?
Questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we've got a presentation from Rachel Levy, Executive Director of Our Valley, Our Future. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you all for having me. I know it was not too long ago we were here, but we've already got some exciting updates. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel Evie. I am the Executive Director of Our Valley, Our Future. I got that role in October. Prior to that, I was at Wenatchee Valley College Foundation for about 9 years. I have with me today Maggie, who I think most of you are familiar with. She is our Development and Facilitation Specialist. So she does a lot of important work regarding our working groups, which I'll touch on a little bit. And I also have one of our esteemed board members, Bob Boogert. And I wanted to start our presentation by allowing him to share a little bit about the organization and his role as a volunteer. It's one thing getting the message from someone who's on the payroll versus someone who's dedicating their own time and resources to the organization.
Thank you, Rachel. Esteemed.
Esteemed, yeah.
Esteemed. But thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members and senior staff for inviting us here. We've got a great presentation. We've got two top-notch staff members here that really are carrying this program so much farther than we've been able to do in the past 10 years of Our Valley, Our Future. So we're beginning our next action planning process. We're well underway and really off to a very good start. I'm a retired biologist and administrator, and I had spent a lot of my career working in community engagement process And I have frankly never experienced an engagement process that is as broad and as deep as what our Valley Our Future does, as far as truly reaching out to the community, to soliciting really constructive ideas and input, and then to take those pieces of information and put it into a cogent, cohesive action plan that is really truly based upon community input. Not only that, then, is to take that action plan, find those leaders that will carry out the implementation of this plan, and really to monitor and facilitate its progress. It is, our Valley Our Future's got a tremendous track record, and I think now that we've got a strengthened staff, we're gonna go even that much further. So I'm just truly honored and delighted to serve on the board. So other than that, Rachel, I think I've carried on too much here. So I really wanted to thank you for this opportunity. Pass it over to Rachel.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. So if you haven't heard of us before, we've been around about 10 years. Our mission is to empower people and organizations to co-create and achieve our region's shared vision, which Bob talked a little bit about already. We're a nonpartisan cross-sector organization, so that means we want anyone and everyone at the table to problem solve and make our community's quality of life better. What we do, 4 main things. We lead community visioning every 5 years, ensuring all voices are heard. We create an action plan shaped by thousands of residents. That includes residents of Leavenworth. We focus on Chelan and Douglas counties. The last time we did an action plan visioning in 2021, we saw an 11% response rate from Leavenworth, which is about the same ratio as our population size as a whole. So we were really pleased to make sure our outlying communities were also participating. We support partners with coordination, data, and communication. And lastly, we keep our region focused on both today and the future. That last thing that we do has become much more feasible because of the increase in our staffing in the last year, which Bob alluded to. So what does our community visioning look like? I'm gonna dive deep into this one because this is actively what we're doing this year. And for those of you who heard this presentation a few months ago, don't worry, I switched up the content a bit. So the first thing we do is an online and paper survey. Why are we using paper, you might wonder? We're literally going into high school classrooms and completing the survey with high schoolers. We're doing it with immigrant farm workers and providing it in Spanish. And then of course we have it online for those folks who are a little more data savvy. We're holding stakeholder interviews. Those are one-on-one interviews with a board member, myself as a note taker, and community leaders to make sure we get their high-level perspective on what our community challenges and opportunities are. And lastly, we have listening sessions, and I'll go into that more later as well. All of that information we gather gets vetted by action teams. That way we make sure the objectives and game changers in our action plan are grounded in reality. We love pie in the sky ideas, but we want to have a roadmap to get there. Our community visioning process is already underway. We started last year with planning because to have a good product, you want to have a lot of planning that goes into it. Right now, we are fully in our engaging the community phase. So our survey is open, our listening sessions are scheduled. Leavenworth is not scheduled yet, but it's going to be a Saturday sometime in May. NCW Libraries is partnering with us on that one. And we also have been doing stakeholder interviews. You might be wondering why we're doing all this different data collection, and all of it is qualitative. So we're not doing number crunching. We're literally asking people open-ended questions because we want them to think big about how they want to see the region improve. We have our grassroots. So those are our everyday residents, people who live here, who work here, even people who visit here, wanting to hear from them, their ideas. And then we have our grass tops, which are those stakeholders, the people in positions of authority and power that can make sure our residents' vision comes into a reality. So we want to make our shared vision a reality. I mentioned that we've been around for 10 years. That means we've completed 2 action plans. And then the next one is coming soon. It will be for the years 2027 to 2031. Which feels very far away, but you're all in public service, so 5 years is actually not too far off. The third thing we do, we support our partners. We do not do this alone. We are a convener, we are a facilitator. We talk about access to housing. We're not the ones building the housing, but what we're gonna do is get the cities, the counties, private developers, housing nonprofits, all in the same room to say, what are the barriers we're seeing? What are the opportunities you're seeing? What's some low-hanging fruit that we can get across the finish line? And then bringing them together month after month so it stays top of mind, top of mind, and that collaboration is possible. Another way we support our smart partners are letters of support. This may seem a little silly since it's just a letter, but when you're an elected official in Washington, D.C. or Olympia, you may not know the importance of a project coming from one of our local municipalities or a local nonprofit organization. When we say this project is in the OVOF action plan, many of our legislators know that means thousands of residents already support that project. Having worked in the nonprofit sector myself, it also meant as a nonprofit leader, I didn't have to go and do my own community needs assessment. I could refer to the action plan to see whether or not it was in alignment with residents' priority and vision of the future. We also do more data. It's not just the action plan. We want to make sure that we dive deep into different topics. That way our partners have the information they need to be successful. The most recent report we did was our greenhouse gas emission report and government reductions impact report. That was for the city of Wenatchee and Chelan County. Can any of you guess what our #1 carbon emission is in Chelan County?
Fire.
You're absolutely right. It's wildfire. So that makes it a little challenging. It's not like converting our fleet to electric vehicles or some such thing. It means we have to do a lot more strategy and a lot more collaboration to address that, especially considering a significant chunk of the county is federal land. But we wouldn't know that if we didn't do a study. We might have some suspicions. So that data is ammunition for us to be able to move forward with some of our projects. I mentioned keeping focus. I mentioned our facilitated working groups. Maggie, who I mentioned earlier, facilitates 3 of those for us. We currently have working groups on wildfire, housing solutions, early learning, health literacy, and post-carbon economy. Post-carbon economy has multiple subgroups around industrial symbiosis, which might be a key term for some of you. That's a partnership with the city of Wenatchee and the Chelan Douglas Port Authority. We're looking at innovative ways to turn one business's waste into another business's product. Sometimes that might mean literal waste, like at our water treatment facility, turning that into downtown heating, but it also might mean things, the ugly apples that can't go to the grocery store are going to Treetop to turn into apple juice or some such thing. So our region's been doing that for a very, very long time. Now it just has like a catchy new phrase. We also do our quarterly symposium series. I'm really excited to let you know that we will be right across the street from you all in June for our annual housing summit. Our symposiums are a way to engage community members from the public, private, and nonprofit sectors to share knowledge, spark collaboration, and inspire action. And I actually have a really cool story that I just learned about today. Back in fall, we had a symposium on food access and food insecurity. It's an issue here. We have many, many organizations that are focused on feeding people now. OVOF is trying to be in the space of what are the systems changes and improvements we can make so people are less hungry or have easier access to food in the future. At that meeting, we had Alan Walker, the executive director of Chelan Douglas Community Action Council, and we also had a random member of the community that happened to be a member of a local church. Last week, Community Action Council got 40,000 pounds of food donated from that church's nationwide office. That would not have happened except for the coincidence that they were at the symposium at the same time. So those things are harder to quantify, harder to identify, but that's a perfect example of why we want to make sure we have these kind of meeting of the minds symposium series. I know you all got these slides from your packet, and I trust you all read them, so I'm going to breeze through these quickly because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Our Housing Solutions Working Group began in 2017, so it's been with us since the very, very beginning. As you can imagine, it's slow and steady progress when it comes to housing access. One example of the success there, and I know it's on your agenda later, so it's kind of a hot topic, but ADU development. and having pre-approved payment plans. City of Leavenworth, you led the charge. Now the city of Wenatchee and East Wenatchee have those developments in place. Cities of Wenatchee and East Wenatchee are also discussing code updates. That way developers in the area only have to follow one set of rules. At our housing summit in June, we'll be following the 5 L's, which is land, labor, lending, laws, and lumber. You can tell who's planning it. Our next group is wildfire. So the deputy chief here earlier, living in North Central Washington, you know, you're right against federal land. Are your services by county? Are they by city? Is it smoking outside? Is it not smoking outside? How do you know where to go? Well, come in May, you can go to wildfirencw.org. This is a partnership with Cascadia. There's over 40 organizations in our region that deal with wildfire. Our goal with this website and with those partners in our wildfire working group is for residents and visitors to have one place to go. That way they can find the resources and information they need for mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery. I already talked a little bit about our post-carbon economy working group. This one's focused on industrial symbiosis right now. We have 3 subgroups that are out of that. Local CO2 supply. Right now, our CO2, if you love your craft beer from Icicle Brewery or Blue Brewery, they're probably importing it from Texas. You can imagine that is a hefty cost for our local businesses. So what are ways that we can produce our own CO2 locally? Heat and power. I talked about the water treatment plant and heat from that. And then resource recovery would be that treetop example I gave. Early care and education. Just last week, we had a symposium on early learning. For every dollar invested in early learning, that's childcare, daycare, pre-K, is a 16% $16 investment when those kiddos grow up. So our collaboration here, our coalition here is focused on that, and it is Chelan, Douglas, Grant, and Okanagan counties. Our last focus area, our last working group is health literacy. The most recent project they came out with was a diabetes toolkit. And as we're planning our next action plan, we're already talking to the health district to partner on their community health improvement plan, also known as their CHIP. We've had 10 years of success and lessons, over 100 action plans and action plan game changers and objectives have been met. Some of those examples, I mentioned the pre-approved ADU plans. The pathway project design is something underway to connect your lovely city with those of us down the valley. Mettow Park in Wenatchee was the city beautification project. You are all very familiar with city beautification and what it can do for an economic driver. We have the trades district by the port. Douglas PUD has their green hydrogen program. Some other successes we like to brag about. Once again, we're not necessarily the ones doing the work, but these are things residents have asked for. The Recreation Ambassador Program that you have all demonstrated and now is being copied by Chelan County and the city of Wenatchee. It's a great way to show how we can appreciate our outdoor recreation. NCW Tech Help by the Tech Alliance, the Leadership Institute of NCW. And we also had some brand new nonprofits that were created out of the action plan because it was a project that was so big, they wanted extra attention to it, such as the Common Ground Housing Trust, TREAD, Sustainable NCW, and the Equity Alliance. One thing Bob touched on and one success that we're seeing based on a lesson is when you put together an action plan that's 40 pages long and has like 80 objectives in it, you can't just really put it out in the community and hope things will get done. It needs a little more special care and attention. So just this last year, I was hired as the first executive director. Maggie joined us part-time, and we have one other part-time employee. So that's increased our capacity to bring those working groups together to really make sure we're making those baby steps and moving the needle forward. So what's next? Why we're really here today? Our action plan is coming soon. But we can't make that action plan without the input of residents from Chelan and Douglas counties. So what I am asking for you all as residents and as community leaders, please participate in the community visioning process this year. Our community survey is open through April 30th. We have a marketing toolkit, so if it's something you or your business want to share out, those voices directly impact the objectives and game changers that we have in the action plan. Additionally, those listening sessions don't have an exact date for Leavenworth yet. Saturdays take a little more logistical gymnastics, but we will be partnering with NCW Libraries and having that right here. And then the other ways you can get involved, attend one of our events, will be right here in your backyard, June 11th, serve on a Game Changer working group, or subscribe to our social media newsletter. I hope I didn't take too much time. I'm happy to answer questions. I know that was a lot of content.
For questions? Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having us again.
We'll look forward to hosting you in June.
Very excited.
Action item 9. This is amendment number 8 to the Varela Engineering for a Commercial Street Lift Station project. Bradley.
Council, amendment number 8 is included in your package. It's in the amount of $140,000, and this $140,000 is going to pay for construction engineering and construction inspection on the forthcoming commercial street lift station project, which is actually on action item number 10. We'll talk about in a second. And before the question gets asked, yes, we are planning on hiring a construction inspector internally in the city. To have city basically to go out and inspect other city projects. This project in particular is pretty complicated for multiple reasons. One, the lift station is fairly complicated. It's kind of a specialized construction, and also the utilities through Commercial Street. I mean, we're literally going to be threading a needle in some cases. There's so many utilities underneath that existing roadway. So we need to have somebody down there full time to kind of keep an eye on the contractor to make sure the contract gets construction gets constructed properly. So with that, and then also one of the reasons is the construction engineering firm Varela. They've been a part of this project. Gosh, it goes back 5 to 10 years. The last thing we want to do is change things at this point in time in the project. So that's why I'm bringing this amendment to you for approval.
Move approval. Authorize the mayor to sign amendment number 8 for Varela Engineering to increase the budget for construction engineering and special services associated with Virgin Street lift station project for $140,000, bringing not to exceed amount of $3,719,240.
Second. Moved by Rob. Second.
Okay, can we make motions?
You needed to do 2 more breaths in there, right?
Yeah, right.
We have a friendly correction there. It was intended to be $140,900.
I would amend my motion to be $900. 140.
It was on the amendment with Varela. It was just incorrect on the motion.
Sorry, it's a typo.
I do have a question. So I'm looking at this in the next item, the same project, right?
Correct.
And it's the same exact scope. The engineering and supervision is the same scope as the bid we're going to award.
The bid is for the construction contract.
Yeah.
Yes, for the same project.
And the engineering supervision is more than the construction by $900,000.
Kind of, okay, so no.
Okay, please clarify, because I'm confused.
So that $3,719,241, that includes, I'm just trying to get to the.
Probably all 3 phases. It's all 3 phases.
$19.5 million project, so roughly 20%.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
This is just the final stage.
I read through it all and I'm like, gosh,
This is adding
This seems
140
Yeah.
in construction supervision for this project.
okay,
To the overall not to exceed.
okay.
Which was a big project. It included getting the phosphorus out of our treatment and collection of many phases. So
Yeah,
this
the
is the
line,
last
a lot of
piece.
the multiple city streets,
Yeah.
sewer lines. So
Yeah.
this is like, I don't even remember phase.
Phase 3, priority 3.
Yeah, there's been multiple projects that have been accomplished before my time here.
And I think that the numbers are what the numbers are. but the percentage of 20% seems high. Simply 15% is, I think, standard for, it's only 50% of a project for project manager.
It's a pretty complicated project.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
So it's pretty,
I mean, I pretty much anything that's associated with wastewater treatment is, especially lift stations, I mean, is high.
I guess, Brent, that's in line with what I would have expected on the overall project. I just didn't see that. I was kind of digging through that, trying to find out how this makes sense.
for the percentage though, I just wanna make sure I'm not going crazy. I think it's simply 15% or so is kind of what we've always kind of done for it. I understand it's more of a technical thing, but it's.
So it
15.
depends on your project, of course. I've seen 10%.
Okay.
Is it just a street? Is it a Bavarian street? Yeah, there are
You have to hire a
definitely
Bavarian
idiosyncrasies.
person.
So, I mean, just,
Bavarian, needing Bavarianized, we have design elements to meet the Bavarian theme, things like that. Yeah.
So we're involved, yeah. The construction inspection is about 80 grand. I mean, I have to go through there and look at the exact number, but the construction engineering piece is probably in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. And again, every single piece of equipment for that lift station has to be reviewed and approved. So the contractor's going to basically provide submittals. They have to go through and make sure the whole system works together. And some of it's, there's pumps, there's controls, there's, wet wells. There's a lot of different things that all have to work well. And if they submit on the wrong materials or the wrong equipment, then functionally it's not going to work properly. So that's why there's a lot of effort. It's not going to occur down here. It's going to be back at the shop in Spokane where the engineering firm is. Now also, there's just a small minor thing, but there was 10 or 20 grand, give or take. Once the project's completed, I'll update the as-built drawings, which is included in that as well. So it's just a small amount. But I'm not sure, which percentages you're used to seeing in the past, and we can certainly change the way the costs look to make it a little clearer.
So I'm just trying to understand, a percentage is a percentage, right? The dollars, so it's a more skilled person is what that's paying for. I mean, 50% of $100 million is a 50% of $100 million, 20%, so it's that much more. The dollars move, it's a percentage, right? So it's a higher percentage, it's a more skilled person that's.
Yeah, for example, a road project, quite honestly, there's virtually no submittals associated with it. I mean, that's something I can approve everything myself just by taking a quick look at it. So you don't have any construction engineering requirements associated with that. In this case, there's a lot more that goes into the project than just having a contractor sitting down there and just, paving.
And there's costs associated with that. So just skilled, but in my world, like a skilled labor making a product, right?
Yes.
So it's a more skilled person. You're paying for, the percentage is higher. It's more expensive because of all the nuances too, right? So it's just that the dollars are already there. So the percentage just moves up with the dollars, right? The dollars move with the percentage, but I'm not saying, I'm saying that right.
I understand what you're saying.
If it's $100 million and it's 15%, you keep bringing up like, oh, it costs this and these different things, these different pieces, and they cost more. Well, yeah, still 50% of that is the same, 20% of that is the same. It's just more expensive. It's a higher percentage for this person because they're a more technical person.
And it's going to be a more technical specialized. And I'll be honest, I've already asked for the resumes of who's going to come over and do this because I want to make sure that we're getting the right person. I haven't received it yet. That's something that we're discussing. And again, that's kind of circling it back into the reason why I don't want our construction inspector to be posted down there, full time, because this is a fairly complicated project that we need some additional expertise on.
So Bradley, my question was that, are they having to rebuild this roadway? Or is it, because they say it's a narrow roadway, so is this reconstruction part of it? Or?
They're going to be putting a sewer line right through the middle of it, and so there's going to be a trench cut that goes right down through the middle of it, and then after it's all said and done, there will repave it. I would need to double check to make sure I think they're repaving curb to curb, but I need to double check that.
All right. Why I asked that is that when this initially was bid, I guess earlier, it was like it was designed for 16 weeks, now it's another 2 months longer. Was that just a plain misfit? Because I'm wondering, are they not understanding what's involved here? Because we have kind of like on a smaller scale with the asbestos and the Osborne thing, they missed 2,000 feet of what they should have caught the first time they bid. So I'm just wondering if are they not doing the job the first time around, or is it got more complicated, or so? I mean, is that a bit?
And I can't precisely answer that question because that original calculation occurred before I got here. But as the project developed, so when we negotiated prices with Varel Engineering, there was assumptions made. One of the assumptions was that this project would take 16 weeks. As we have gotten into it, developed the plans, part of it, quite honestly, is availability of equipment. It takes quite a bit of time to actually, submit. You have to do the submittals, you have to order the pumps and controls and those type of things, and then they have to get here. So it's not, I think the original assumption was that they could do everything in a very, a shorter period of time, but after kind of spending more time looking at the totality of the project, plus, how to address the traffic control limitations and try to make the city operate around it. I think they realized it was going to take longer, and thus the price went up from the earlier cost, cost estimates. I wasn't involved in the first iteration of negotiation, so I'm just making that assumption.
Okay. I just noticed the second time this has come through, second bid was much substantially more, and so I just wanted to make a note of that whoever's doing these initial bids does happen, but it just came through the second time, so I wanted to mention that.
Just to clarify the full project at 19.5 million, about 12.1 million was loan, and the remaining 7.34 million was grant. And right now we have 2.2 million of this, that's the grant. So this is the tail end. What they did is they made us use all the loan first and then the grant last. So most of this is covered by the grant.
That's my other question was, that's what's covered in the system.
Most of it's going over, but we have reserves in the sewer fund. We purposefully built the reserves in the sewer fund, so we're covered.
Follow-up question. Brandon, you mentioned that you're gonna be trenching, and then you think the repaving is gonna be the entire street. I think that's important that we confirm that, because cutting up our streets, they're bad enough. So if we're gonna make sure it looks good at the end, probably do the whole thing and not just a center that creates a
I generally strongly dislike doing that, and that's why I'm pretty sure if I'd have seen that in my original plan review, I would have noted it, but I don't have the plan sheets here in front of me.
Yeah, why not?
It's been a few weeks since I've even looked at it.
We went these interrogations, so we're getting to be a little bit harder on you.
The honeymoon's over.
Here yet?
Not yet. 9 months.
Any other questions? I call for a vote then. All those in favor, let me see your hand. Passes unanimously. We'll go on to, guess what? Commercial street lift station.
I fully anticipate this is probably going to have some conversation associated with it as well. But I'm requesting City Council consider awarding Commercial Street Lift Station Phase 1 project. The Commercial Street Lift Station project, but it's contingent on a right-of-way certification that we're currently working on. And so just to go on the actual project bid, so we opened bids on March 11th, and Strider Construction was the low bid in $2.8 million. That is, they were the lowest responsible bidder. We've gone through and checked all their certifications, business license, all those things. We're all good there. The one thing that's holding up the official award on this contract is due to there's federal funding associated with this project, we have to do, you know, a right-of-way certification. So we started that process, gosh, a couple months ago. It turns out there's some complexities associated with the right-of-way through there that were requiring us. We went through about a month ago and hired another consulting firm to revise the right-of-way plan based off of current information. So what they essentially have done, they've ordered title reports, they've gone through and resurveyed that whole area, because there's a couple of parcels that are, quite honestly, there's a title gap in one of the parcels, and then it looks like some of the parcels that the city owned have never actually been dedicated to city-owned right-of-way. So again, it's a process that we have to go through. So all the surveying work occurred last week. We should have the updated right-of-way plan next week. At that point in time, we'll know what needs to be done, what our future steps are. But we do have, these bids are good for 75 days from March 11th, which I think is May 25th, give or take. And at that point, so we have until that time to actually award this contract. So we're literally pushing as fast as we can to get the certification. And ultimately, the mayor has to sign it. So we want to make sure that you're signing a legal document.
Leavenworth City Council moves to accept the construction bid and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Strider Construction Inc. for the Commercial Street Lift Station Project Phase 2 in the amount of $2,851,781.70, including Washington State sales tax, contingent on the completion of right-of-way certification.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Shane. Any other questions? Not all those in favor, let me see your hands. It also passes unanimously. Okay, then the added item is on the moratorium, Maggie.
Yeah, so thanks for revising our agenda this evening to discuss this. This was brought up in part due to the last meeting where we first talked about the use of pre-approved plans that are being built for ADUs or single-family residences and then being converted into B&Bs, and a concern with that subsidy then going to benefit someone using, basically allowing a pre-approved plan to be used as an STR in a way. And just what options how would we restrict that? And then in that process, we also talked about the 4% cap and how that was interpreted. And as it's codified, it's not really that accurate. So I had a very short time to pull this together, and I realized even my attachments are labeled wrong. So I apologize for that. But I tried to pull together all the current B&B data like you had requested. So how many we have, how many are ADUs. So if you look at this one package, the current list of either B&Bs that have been approved, have preliminary approval, and are just going through the steps to get that final approval done. And then we have 2 that are in the application process right now. That's a total of 31 in city limits, if you count all of those. When we use the housing stock method, but the map that was in your packet, that's using the Assessor's Code 11. You'll see that some of those properties that are highlighted in green are actually not housing units. I did try to pull out like some of the ones that were very obvious, like the apartments, if they were identified as a Code 11. But I'm looking at some of these just, and they're vacant properties or wetlands, or they're not actually housing units. So I don't think using the Assessor Code 11 is really providing us with the best information, most reliable information. I looked at possibly in your packet kind of just different examples on how to calculate. So I showed you based on the current method that our 4% cap would lead to a total of 44 allowed B&Bs in city limits, which is quite a bit more than what we have. And then I went and looked at census data
Because every year I have to provide housing numbers to, the population, and it goes toward population estimates. So I send them data that's specifically how many ADUs did we issue, how many SFRs did we issue, how many duplexes. And so I can pull that data and it actually breaks down like multifamily separate from single family separate from duplexes so that I can really get a good number. And so using that information, it was a lot lower. And that would be my recommend. I mean, and the reason for the moratorium is, or the discussion tonight is, this is just me in like a week trying to throw something together. And I want us to really think about what is the best way to get these numbers and how do we want to regulate these, the B&Bs and the pre-approved plans. It's kind of multiple things came up and it just, it's concerning and I want to make sure we take the time to really walk through it.
I think the biggest light bulb that went on with us was the fact that mayor and efforts previously of trying to get more affordable housing in the community was then being flipped to a B&B, defeating our purpose and effort so far. And that was, I think, the light bulb that went on for me. So, it's not the issue of using a discounted permit to do a B&B. It's the fact that it's counterproductive to the efforts that we're trying to do by promoting affordable housing in this community. And that was the shocker to me. I mean, just thinking of nothing back for 2 months, but that was like, yeah.
And after our meeting, on the 10th, I had a meeting with, I think it was our future, and they taught, the city of East Wenatchee has pre-approved plans now, but they're free. The city holds the contract to those plans, so they're free. The way we do it is we don't have the contract to those plans, so we don't have. So the city of East Wenatchee, they actually don't allow them, if you use their plans, it's part of the contract, but you don't get to use them forever as an STR or a B&B. They are a long-term housing option. And I think that's the limitation here. It wouldn't even require a code amendment, but if we had the plans, if they were like ours instead of belonging to the architect, then we could have that stipulation, just, okay, if you're gonna use these plans, it either as a notice to title or something that says this is. What's keeping us from doing that? We paid them to make them for us.
Exactly.
They're ours. We did not, that they have. How come they're not ours if we paid for them?
$60,000 a month.
Because we didn't get the rights to them, like.
Yes.
I don't know, I wasn't part of that process. I don't
That
know.
is normal. I mean, you pay an architect to design your custom home, they own the design.
So they still own the design, but the way, I know Wenatchee, East Wenatchee, they actually, through that process, paid and they have the design theirs. And I think that's why people can build them or get the plans for free too. So I asked for kind of a cost breakdown. So if somebody wants to buy these plans, they go through Syndicate Smith, who was the original designer. They pay a $1,200 fee to get the plans. And then if they need a site plan, it's an additional $1,500. So we haven't seen a lot of these pre-approved plans. I think we've done, I said 5 last time. And other jurisdictions are seeing a lot more. And I think there's a lot of factors.
Our mechanism might be wrong or different. Our mechanism is
Yeah.
different.
I think.
I'd be curious to know how much East Wenatchee paid for their plans versus what we paid for ours.
They went in with Wenatchee and East Wenatchee did it together, so they have the same plans.
I have that answer right here.
Well, I don't have the answer to that question. I shouldn't say that. Multiple
They shared the cost.
Yes, they shared the cost.
Was that an option presented to us, do we know?
We had already done
We
this.
had done it first.
Yeah.
Was that an option when we paid $60,000 to have them drawn up, an option for us to buy the rights? Was that presented to us? So they're like, hey, thanks for the money.
I honestly, I don't know.
We never thought about that.
It could have been written into the RFP that was done, but it sounds like it wasn't.
It's classic. Going back to the original, intent of what you guys did last year is to increase the affordable housing stock, and the current mechanism that we have works against that. it just doesn't make sense. So I know we talked about, what if someone sells the current owner who has an ADU, sells it, then the buyer doesn't want to do an ADU, wants to make it pay that back, but that's another option that they can do. But I think the biggest thing right now is the current setup that we have, the current mechanism we have is counterproductive to increasing affordable housing stock in this community.
Right. So right now, there's a couple things we're discussing. Do you need us to formally approve how we calculate the housing stock so that we can be on the same page with how many are allowed in the city, and then also talk about moratorium?
And I guess the idea of the moratorium was just, it gives us a 6-month, like, hey, we're not gonna issue anymore until we get some of this figured out. We have 2 that are currently in process. I haven't had any pre-apps or any discussions with other people, so I don't know where we're at with more people coming in. But it buys us some time to look at both these issues and decide, hey, do we want to maybe look at owning our plans, and then we just have, when somebody uses them, it's part of the project. I mean, they're agreeing that they're not going to use this as a PUP, or we put there's a notice to title that goes with it. So it gets harder when, I know we brought up the idea of, people could pay after a certain amount of time, pay out, and then that's hard because each unit is a different, some of them are bigger, and so the cost of the plans was more, and then who's gonna track that and make sure it gets complicated. I mean, it's doable, but I just wanted it to be not just okay, this is what we're gonna do, but I wanted it to be more of a discussion. And as far as the 4% cap, that would be a code change. Like it's written into our code that that's how we calculate it. So that is something that has to go through the planning commission, and will take time since we're in comp plan right now. So I think the reason we put this idea out here is just to buy us some time to consider everything and make a well-informed decision.
Thank you, by the way, of doing that calculation, because I think that was a point of the last meeting where we were like, how is that done? And it's clarifying, and I think it needs to be changed. So I don't know if the rest of the council agrees, but I would like to direct the city to pursue a code change on that, bring that to us, and go through that process. Does anybody else agree with that?
Yeah,
absolutely. You would support a moratorium in order to give us the time to do that.
Well,
I think that's going in together.
Yeah, we be together. I don't know if we have to do it all together, but I think I would like to pursue a change where we assess the housing stock according to the average housing stock census to come up with our maximum B and B.
Or even if we had I was thinking even like a policy, instead of it written into the code, if we say it's based on the most, I'll have to look at how it's written, but like maybe even just having a policy, this is how, because that could change, and then every time there's better data available, we're gonna have to update the code. So maybe even what.
So if we obviously it's time to figure this out, if we entertain a moratorium on this, it would not impact any of the existing mature process. So it would be anything new. So,
which I think is a factor, because I think deadlines and the perception of opportunities lost spur action. So, and words on the street that we're considering a moratorium. So I would be for. You're taking out a moratorium right now. Me too, absolutely,
Yeah.
Can I ask a point of order? Because there's a council member that has a B and B permit, and voting for a moratorium and having an advantage to say, oh, no more B and Bs in town. Is that something that I can refuse myself? Well, I don't know if you feel comfortable with that. I don't want to get it seen a certain way. You know, that's what makes them look at you and say, whoa, this guy is no more.
He lives in the commercial district.
oh yeah, I do.
I'm a multi-family.
Yeah.
I am on that list, and I would have to, let me recuse myself right now, or?
Well, this is what I'm asking.
Well, we're not
voting.
We don't have a
We're not
motion.
voting on it.
We're not voting tonight.
I'm just presenting it now. When would you vote for it?
Right, yeah.
I mean, your heart's in a good place. I'm just.
Oh, I absolutely will recuse myself when
going back to the issue at hand is that it's a goal of creating affordable housing. There's a disconnect in what we're doing that is working against us to achieve that goal. And I think we need to correct that. So if you're gonna need time, we should bring before us a moratorium so that we can give you the time to correct it, do it the right way, and come up with the solutions that we think is fair and equitable for those downstream.
Is there anybody who disagrees on that? Sounds like we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We're gonna say something then.
I was just gonna ask, Mike, do you have a financial interest in making a motion to set a public hearing?
The only thing I could see somebody could say a moratorium would reduce my competition, so yeah, I'm happy to set out. Check it off the days. Yeah.
Oh,
When we were kids, we stepped out of the room.
Yeah, we step out of the room. So you can't even make the evil eye at you.
Oh, no, you can. I got direct access to the window.
Pulled out the blinds.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. If we're moving forward with a moratorium, that won't be established until sometime in April. Is there any way for us to just now stop the usage of these B&B plans for anything other than actual long-term housing?
This was what we thought of to stop.
The only thing I can think of is the architects who are selling these plans have that control to not sell them.
Well, they're probably just not asking.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't really have that control. We do through permitting.
If we can get, and maybe we just need to have that discussion with them about getting the control.
Yeah, because I feel like if they were our plans, like they're signing a contract with Syndicate Smith for the plans. If we own the plans, and it's part of the process of if you're going to.
I feel like there's a big miss somewhere where we've spent a lot of money on these plans and they're continuing to profit from it. It seems like a problem to me.
This is a problem. It either was presented, I mean, I licensed a piece of art to make stickers. It was $500 from this tattoo artist, Mike Giant, popular guy. And he started using it in different art. I couldn't stop it from producing that art. I just bought this license to make some stickers. That's a common thing. And so Nachi's doing it. There's a couple different avenues. There's options. It was not either presented or.
And I don't think they're opposed to us owning them, I just don't know what the process.
What the cost will be. I mean, it's what cost, he's gonna be losing revenue, so.
So are either of the two that are in process using those plans?
No.
So we don't have that immediate problem. If we put a moratorium in place, we can get all of that done at once, right? Figure out how we wanna handle those plans.
But going forward, I mean, since we're having this conversation, like if anyone comes in even tomorrow and is like, I'm gonna be using these plans, can we just tell them they're only for long-term use? They're not for short-term use.
We can say that. I don't know how, like,
Because the whole point was for
No,
long-term
no,
housing.
100%.
That's why we bought them, or paid for them to be developed anyway.
But the question is saying that legally enforceable?
Right.
The legal background.
is when they come in to apply, because they're not applying for a B&B, when they're coming in and applying for a single-family residence, when they apply for their permit. And they accept those plans, that's what they're building, an ADU, it's not a B&B, it's an ADU or it's a single family. So then, a year later, or they build it, and after occupancy, they come in and they go, okay, I wanna do a B&B. Well, there was nothing that told them they couldn't do that when they built it.
But can we
And
tell
our
them that
code-
now?
our code
A courtesy
says
notice to
it's
them.
an ADU.
Can we tell them that now, though?
I mean, we could ask legal.
Are we taking public comment?
We have to,
Sure, Ron, comment, you wanna come up? Sure.
Ron Duncan, 244 Cascade. I think perhaps the discussion is getting lost in the weeds of the ownership of the plans, because the indication in the previous discussion was that the city was providing a value in the streamlining of the processing, and not that we have owned the plans that could add that as another benefit cost. They can buy the plans, these plans have been vetted by the city, and they're streamlined, and that gives a value. And so we focus on the value, and whether we own the plans or not is not what's stopping us from putting a restriction on the title for the intended use for that streamlining and financial benefit that the city is providing to the owner. So it seems like we're getting lost in the owning of the plans and not in the financial benefit the city is providing.
Thank you.
Maggie, what does it take to have that requirement of notice to title on building permits with specified plans? Can we just have a policy in place, or is it more involved than that?
I can follow up and ask. I would love to just have,
6 months.
I mean, I need time to draft the policy. I mean, you can see the difference in the 4% too, and that calculation is a big difference right now. And sorry, there's a lot to it, but,
Thanks, guys.
yeah, and I'm sorry, I brought up the owning the plans because that was how it was very simple for other jurisdictions. These plans are free, but you can only use them for this. Ours, they're still paying quite a bit, and so like having to then figure out what the value is. The numbers I gave you 2 weeks ago were like the estimates before the program started, so I asked for a breakdown, but for some business plans, they could be this high, but some, it's really hard to get an exact number. Sure. So it would be easier to just.
So is there interest in, again, setting the public hearing for the moratorium for next time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion.
Sorry, guys, you have to make it up.
You can just do
Yeah.
what's
Leavenworth City Council moves to set a public hearing, a moratorium on bed and breakfast conditional use permits on April 14th, 2026 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Shane. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, see your hands. Passes unanimously with one
Recusal.
recusal.
You didn't abstain.
Now, we can let him back now.
Well, my particular property, you're moving to Manassas.
He said as soon as mine goes up, he is. Okay, council reports.
All right.
Yes. Just 1 moment. We held our first finance committee meeting on the 19th, and a lot of it was basically level setting. Chantel did a great job doing a basic budget rundown on the monthly finance report, talking about the budgeting and accounting reporting system, so we all had a shared understanding of what we are talking about when we talk about it. It was great. Outlined the timeline for work for the finance committee over the course of the year. Chantel also outlined the recommended changes to the financial policy update, and we also set upcoming meetings through the course of the year in June, September, and August. Actually, check that. I talked about some changes of meeting times for various reasons in June, September, and August. So if Chantel wants to give any more detail on that on her meeting, she's welcome to do so, but it was a great first meeting. I was there too.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a chair? Can we chair?
Yes,
I wanted to say that in my report.
Oh.
That was our first order of business.
That's right.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot of committees. I attended LAP committee last week. We had, which is our Leavenworth area promotions. Datify, which is a company that the chamber uses, presented their visitation and spending report for 2025. It was a fascinating presentation. I learned a lot about all the various different things associated with LAP.
And I learned that we have 2.1 million visits from 50 plus miles away, which was a 2.2% increase year over year. But our length of stay decreased to 2.1 days. Overnight visitation is 70% of our visitation. Our tourism is the economic driver for local businesses, jobs, and tax revenue, as we all knew. 75% of in-market spend comes from our visitors. Tourism nationally has been softer in the last year, and tourism is more drive-oriented than fly-oriented these days. And so Leavenworth is trying to attract more of that drive market, since that's where people are spending their money. Canada visitation is down 40%, and that has really been felt here in our community this last year. Canada has been doing a huge marketing campaign about staying in their own country and traveling to various different provinces and communities within their country, and that's been hurting our visitation quite a bit. And our businesses are feeling that right now, absolutely, because we used to have a lot of Canadians come down here. The Seattle-Tacoma area is 58.7% of our visitation, and they spend 52.9% of the income that we obtain from visitation. And 3/4 of our visitors come from Washington and Oregon. The winter campaign this year reprioritized drive markets, and we narrowed our flight allocation just to Phoenix because we found that our previous flight campaigns had not been providing a good return on investment. So they're focusing on Phoenix, which still has a stronghold here in the North area for visitation. Goals and key results. Economic impact goal is $3.73 million between visitor spend and hotel spend. The next meeting that I attended last week was the Lake Transit Board. For January boardings, we had about 14,000 boardings, and in February we had about 13,500 boardings on the Route 22, which is the long route from Wenatchee. And together with our Route 122, which is the commuter route into the hospital, and our shuttle, we had 15,500 boardings just on the buses specific to Leavenworth, which is great. It continues to grow over time. Lake Transit is hiring a new CEO. Their current CEO, Nick, is going to be retiring at the end of June. And so we are in the middle of a hiring process. 11 interviews for potential CEOs are underway, and the hope is to have this person hired by the end of May so that they can work side by side with Nick for a month before he retires. And then there is a new bus barn open house for the public on June 25th from 5 to 7 down at the Lake Transit North Station, where that new bus barn is. We encourage all the public to come and check it out. It is amazing. It is such a nice facility. It's very high tech, drive in, drive out operations with lots of connections for all the electric buses. They all come down from the ceiling. There's no cords on the floor anymore. Everything is very streamlined, and it's amazing how clean that place is. You can eat off the floor. It is a wonderful facility. So June 25th. Last week I also attended the parking committee. And we actually had some public join our parking committee, which was great. It was great. There's been a lot of talk in town recently about some of the parking programs that have been rolled out, particularly employee parking program, the most recent employee parking program. I think the slight misunderstanding is some of the community thinks that this is being forced on them, and it's just an option people can opt into. Nobody has to use it. But it is a great opportunity for employees that commute into our community. And the statistic we were talking about earlier, associated with the comp plan, and how a majority of our workers do commute into town, it averages down to, if you work full-time in town during the week, you're gonna pay about $2.50 a day just to park with this program, because it's only $50 a month. And it does sound like a lot until you kind of break it down. If you're coming into town every single day and needing to park, really not expensive.
You spend more on gas than you can on parking.
Yeah, you will spend more on gas for sure. Yeah, we had an architect, Glenn Peterson, present to us. He's had some conversations with our architecture firm for the parking garage, and he came and briefly discussed some potential public-private partnership opportunities that we could have. His presentation was pretty short. He just kind of had a few bullet point ideas, but he has a lot of experience in parking garage development, and so he wanted to go talk to the parking committee. We had our revenue report. We were down in revenue in January compared to 2025, and up in February. A lot of that had to do with, highway closures and weather issues and those sorts of things. And then we had a presentation from a company called Honk. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Honk placards in parking lots. It is not a new way of charging for parking. It is a way of validating parking through a QR code. So this is an opportunity that we could use like in the city hall parking lot for use of the parking lot, as well as our city pool lot where you can scan a QR code. It gives you 15 minutes to validate your parking, and then you're given an allotted amount of time to use that stall before you would get a ticket. Whereas, because we don't charge for parking at city hall or at the pool lot currently. So this would be able to monitor usage and make sure that people are properly using those parking stalls. So we had a presentation on that, and it's an easy signage opportunity for us. I think that's about it. We're gonna be rolling out parking lot repairs, but we've discussed that as a council, so that's all my reports.
What have you been doing?
What's that?
What have you been doing?
Just feverishly taking notes.
So I attended the same finance meeting as Glenn alluded to, so he's covered that. Only other thing I did was attended the mountain bike trails gathering at Icicle Brewery last Wednesday night, and for 25% of that income that they raised that went to trails, and also the Icicle Brewing Company donated 10 grand to that same nonprofit. So that's pretty cool.
Evergreen Mountain Bike.
Yeah, it was a packed house, and wish I would have got there sooner, but at least I got the tail end of it.
Okay.
Yep, that's my report.
I have a longer report since I missed the last council meeting. I do want to apologize for missing the joint meeting between the PRSA and city council on March 10th. I did not plan my vacation very well, and I need to work on my calendaring skills. But anyway, since I missed the last council meeting, I'm sure council members Bedard and Eaton filled you in on this, but I also attended a meeting with several business owners on March 4th at Prusik to hear some of their concerns and help bridge, the information gap regarding those issues. The main one that kept coming up from the majority was parking, obviously. I think their main goal or their main takeaway from what I discerned was to perhaps create a committee or several committees that, that have the time to attend, more meetings or committees and gather information and bring that information to other business owners, which I think is great. There's a lot of misinformation out there. The more that we can help crush some of those rumors. I drove 7.5 hours back from vacation on March 12th to attend the PRSA meeting in person. I didn't want to do it on Zoom. There wasn't much to update you on unless it just slipped my mind, but we are working on creating vision and values for the PRSA board, and we'll hopefully have those finalized this year. I volunteered at the Leavenworth Mountain Film Fest on Saturday night, which is one of my favorite local events in town. I saw Maggie there and Selby and Ann, and that kind of leads me into a little plug that I want to throw out there. We're going to the Film Fest on April 9th. They don't have limo rides or the red carpet, but they have really great films, and I highly encourage you all to attend that festival. So. My last update is that I observed session 4 of the Civics Academy last night on Public Works. Chris Clanky, Selby, Courtney, and Brandley all did an amazing job educating everyone on what happens in Public Works and their day-to-day life. That's my report.
I am pleased, really kind of getting into this year with the committees that I have, Ann and Clint, and who's sitting in front of me to give amazing reports.
So that you don't have to.
It's such an amazing job. I did want to add that we had maybe you mentioned it, but Clint is the chair of the finance committee. Voted for Clint. And I did think that you were like doing some day trading, but you were obviously taking notes. And I speak. There were notes. I think I talk more than I take notes at some of these meetings. So my reports are as robust. So amazing, both of you, all three of you actually, because on the finance committee with Zeke as well. Yeah, so I attended the Leavenworth Areas Promotions meeting, the finance committee meeting, and the parking housing advisory committee. 10 years period. Busy. Yeah, awesome, good stuff happening. Thanks.
Right. Let's see, kind of piggybacking on Shane after that meeting, which we already reported on, there's been a flurry of activity online and such, and so I reached out to a couple of folks who are integral in that, and had a meeting with them for 2 hours yesterday. We just sat and had a conversation and kind of try to break down barriers really, and a little bit of education opportunity for them to hopefully see that we are not adversaries, that the committees that are helping to guide a lot of the decision making around here are informed citizens and business owners, and which committees do what and all that. And I think it was really helpful for them. Hopefully, it just helps kind of quiet down some of the negativity and help us all kind of work towards more solution oriented approach. But we'll see. I think it was worthwhile. I felt like it was a good meeting. And then this morning we had downtown steering committee meeting, and gosh, I don't really think there was an awful lot to report from that, but we continue to look at updates to the parking garage progress. And there was, for a brief moment, if any of you had anything on your radar, I was really pushing to try and see if we could close 9th Street and punch 10th Street through to help solve some of our traffic stuff. And there's just logistically very challenging. But thank you, Bradley, for looking into that and doing a deep dive. But I'm off of that soapbox now.
It was a good idea to explore.
It was good to explore. Good question. Good question. So that's all I have to go.
My colleagues covered most of the stuff with downtown steering committee. The one thing that we did talk about a lot today was the temporary or the interim improvements to Front Street that we're going to be doing. So thank you, the Public Works. We discussed it in the Public Works committee back 2 weeks ago, and Selby and Bradley will bring it before us at the next council meeting to look at the temporary improvements that we make to downtown better. So that'll come before council, hopefully with a motion to maybe not exceed a certain amount, so we can move forward on that and get it done by June. So thank you very much for all that effort. That's great. And the other takeaway from that meeting, it was a really good meeting today. It was a good conversation, and I think about bridging the communication gap, and I started doing it, but I encouraged Troy from the chamber, and I encourage the rest of us, is that I'm starting to walk the town block by block once we can introduce myself to business owners and the building owners. So it would not hurt us to get out there and put our faces in their door fronts. We used to do it a long time ago, but I think we should do that to help bridge the community and invite them to come to our community meetings.
We started doing that too.
Yeah.
With the Flying Tigers, did a lot of it. I went to
Just
new ones.
Just take a block it once a week. It takes like the 8th Street block, the 9th Street block, and just say hi. Just as you're going for coffee, it adds another 45 minutes or an hour to your day, but it's actually pretty good. But I think helping and inviting them to come to the meetings, because I think we had a great meeting today, and if there were people from the downtown business and actually listen to how thoughtful and the amount of stewardship that not only council members have, but the community members have on these interactive communities, that's been a very thoughtful process over many, many years of these decades. So I think that's going to be good.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any report.
What?
Yeah, I know.
All right, Mayor, Council, last week, Brantley and I met with Pat Haggerty of the Cascadia Conservation District about our storm debris pile that we have at the cemetery. And another announcement, we are gonna be collecting again at the cemetery on April 11th from 8 to 2 p.m. Pat obtained a $50,000 industrial symbiosis grant. We heard that term earlier from Al Crowley, our futures, from the Department of Commerce to conduct to convert storm debris into biochar. And they would like to include this debris that's at our cemetery in that project. Ideally, they would like to conduct the biochar activity in the fall. And that will give city staff time to try to get rid of the larger logs that are there. They can only burn 6 inches or smaller. It's mostly slash. It's about the same stuff that Winton can get, but this would save us the cost of chipping or hauling to Winton if they do move forward with this biochar. So they also want to do a smaller burns at either the high school or WRI, and they're also doing some work at Steno as well under that grant. As Shane mentioned, last night we had our 4th night of our Civics Academy program. Shout out to our fantastic public works staff. Kyle Bro, who's our water resource recovery facility supervisor, gave a great tour down at the sewer plant. Sorry, the water recovery resource facility.
The RF, what is it?
WRF. Chris Clanky, our water plant treatment supervisor, he put together a fantastic presentation. His wife's got a drone. He flew that drone to show us, from our intake all the way to our distribution plants. It showed us our towers, our pump stations. It was really, really well thought out, well put together. Folks really enjoyed it. And to Brantley, our city engineer and acting public works director, for his very informative presentations about streets, utilities, and engineering. So our next session will highlight our public safety partners, and that'll be on April 13th. And then our final night is called Parks, Parking, Pools, and People, and that will be on April 27th. And huge kudos to Courtney Porter for doing all the legwork to make this possible. And it's working. We've seen evidence online that our students are turning into city ambassadors. So this is exactly what I wanted when I got the mayor's and council support to move forward with this program. I wanted to get people informed so that they can act as ambassadors for us, and it is working.
Cool.
And last, not quite last, some staff updates. I'm very pleased to announce that Stephen Rubenstein has accepted the position of River Recreation and Tourism Manager, and will be starting on April 13th. Stephen has a degree in Recreation Management and Policy, and he most recently worked as the Assistant Manager of Operations at the Leavenworth Adventure Park. Also starting on April 13th is our newest water treatment plant operator, Alex Pedak. Alex was most recently the maintenance manager at Tierra Village, where he's been for several years. And both of these positions were highly competitive, dozens of applicants. We're currently sifting through over 60 applications for the permit tech position in Maggie's department, with the aim to screen the top 10 over the next week or so. And we are currently accepting applications for an open utility maintenance work position, as well as the seasonal construction manager that we discussed earlier. And also all of our seasonal positions have also been posted. And next week, I'll be attending the Northwest Managers Conference in Sitka, Alaska. I'll be gone all week. I'm leaving on Sunday. Got to get to the airport 6 hours in advance rather than 2 hours in advance to make sure I actually get through security and onto a plane.
I'll give you an update tomorrow morning. So
Okay.
I'll text you how it is tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
It's not bad.
And also on Wednesday next week, I'll be presenting on a panel titled Balancing Tourism Growth and Local Needs. So I've got a little 7-minute intro to Leavenworth, and then I'll be along the city administrators of Sitka and Kodiak Island, Alaska, and Seaside, Oregon. And so there's a bunch of questions that we'll be answering about the balancing act that we're all trying to achieve between tourism and the dollars it brings, as well as the locals and their life, their quality of life. And that is all my updates.
Selby, I was gonna ask you, who was it that's doing the char stuff?
The Cascadia Conservation District.
Okay, all right, cool.
They're the same group, the nonprofit that volunteered and went around and chipped
all the chip
areas to debris.
They're doing a lot of work on fire stuff, fire lines.
Chantel.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Councilmember Strand noted that we did change a couple dates for the council finance committees. Those have been updated on the city calendar. It was June and September that we did have to move slightly around because I was not going to be available on the specified dates. Your next meeting, just a heads up, because you're not going to get this more than once. It's your quarterly budget amendment. This one is a big one because it's the rollover of 25 into 26. So $8.5 million amendment coming to you out of a $50 million budget. It's pretty significant. A lot of line items. And coming soon. Senior and disabled discounts. So staff is going to be talking about the details of that. I'm going to bring that to my team tomorrow. Got a lot of information going on. We had thought this through when we had the utility rates come up, but we knew that we needed to refocus on what is the low thresholds for the senior disabled application process. And we're definitely at the mark, but we could consider some increases. So that's what you'll be expecting. I'm not going to ask you for action the first time you see it. It'll just be informational, probably an evening discussion, because I think our study session next meeting is already jam-packed, might even be overbooked. So we'll see if we can get that on the evening. I spoke with Kara about this today, and the goal would be, if we do change the thresholds, we want to do a pretty big informational piece for marketing it to our seniors and disabled. And we would want to get that done in May and June so that they can come and get applications into us ahead of the summer watering, which is when the bills really increase for them. And last but not least, tab 12 is your February finance report. So just a reminder, that includes your December numbers in the taxes if you want to look at how that laid out for us. If you have any questions on that, reach out.
All right, thank you.
I don't have a huge update. I'll probably send Selby some information to send out in his weekly email to you all. We have quite a few projects going. The hearing for the PUD's substation is going to be on it's the 7th of April, so that's coming up. That's going to be an in-person hearing. We usually just do Zoom only, but it's going to be a dual. So we expect to have quite a few people turn out for that. We did receive and are starting the comment period for the co-living back here. They resubmitted their application for gosh, I don't know the exact number of units, it's 32 co-living spaces. Anyway, yeah.
I think it is 32.
Okay, and that's online and available. I think we noticed it wrong, so it's actually a 3-week public comment period, so we get extra time for the public to provide us feedback on that. And then we have a B&B that's going out for public comment next week, and also the cottage housing and unit lot subdivision just went out for public comment today. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that I'll summarize that for you personally on Friday. And then we're just working through applications. I reviewed 60 last night, and yeah, it's exciting to get that much interest. So yeah, we're looking forward to narrowing it down to our top 10 next week, and hope to get somebody on board soon, because we are operating with limited staff right now. So that's all we're doing. Thank you.
Mayor and council, just a couple of little updates on the Public Works and Project Arena. So last week we actually had a joint consultant meeting between the parking garage consulting firm and the Front Street pedestrian plaza. And because if you look at both designs, essentially down by the fest hall, there's a lot of overlap. So we wanted to make sure that these two firms are actually starting to talk together as we move throughout this project. So we're going to start doing this on a quarterly basis throughout, just to make sure that there's not assumptions made on one side or the other, and make sure that we don't replicate work or leave areas out. So that was one little thing. Also this morning, I'm geeking out on this. So recently on a video inspection, we actually found there was a hole in the sewer line just up the street from the mayor on West Street. So we actually fixed it this morning using this new technology, but it's basically an epoxy balloon. You stick this balloon inside, you blow it up, high pressure, it actually cures against the concrete and it fixes the hole. So we actually did that this morning and it actually worked relatively well. So just, kind of a little bit of something that we're working on. And also
break the ends out or something? How do you get through the balloon after?
It actually is more of a cylinder, but it flows up longitudinally.
You can run it a long ways too, right? That's what I'm thinking that I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, this was a relatively small hole, so the actual repair patch was only a few feet long. But
That's a small hole.
well, the hole was yay size, but yeah. So that was just something that came up. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, I know somebody's going to be happy with this, is during this council meeting, I actually got a text. The pool, we ordered a new pump for the pool, new VFD programming, and chlorine analyzer. They will be installed April 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Nice.
So yeah, we're pushing forward that May 1st opening date.
Great, wonderful. All right, well, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? It's unanimous, they all get to go.